Chapter 468. Sizzle. Sizzle. As soon as Yun Yen said those words, a cold glint flashed across his eyes. A few members of the Yun family had drawn their weapons and were ready to kill. Family Lord, a Mr. Jiang from Jin City is here. Right at this moment, the burly man who was guarding the gate rushed in. When he saw this scene, he was stunned. The two sects and three major families of the Southwest had formed an alliance and had always been on good terms with each other. What was going on? Why did they draw their weapons? Well, could it be that Jiang Taichu is already here? What kind of person is he? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was shocked, and they could faintly determine that it was Jiang Taichu who had come. Wu Yingxiong lived in southwest China and was a local tyrant. He was not even close to Huaqing Tian, let alone Jin City. Why would he have a friend from Jin City? However, Wu Yingxiong had only received the news 2 hours ago. How did he get here so quickly? Even a private jet would not be able to get here so quickly. He is a young man in his early 20s. He looks like an ordinary man, but with a single slap the guard swallowed a mouthful of saliva. At this moment he still couldn't control the astonishment in his heart. Trembling, he said, "Smashed the big stone lion at the entrance." Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air in unison. They were shocked in their hearts, and their expressions suddenly became extremely solemn. He smashed the stone lion into pieces with a single slap. He must be a transcendent state cultivator. Since he is from Jin City, he must be Kong Taichu. Behind Hua Wanfang, the young sect lord of the House of Shadow Blight, Silent Shadow, trembled in fear as his face turned as pale as a sheet. Whenever he thought about how Jiang Tian had slaughtered so many Southeast Asian experts on the peak of Mount Everest like chopping melons and vegetables, he could not help but shudder in fear. "That's fast." Yun Yan's face darkened as he said hurriedly, "Ask the guards to back us up. We still have time to run. We can't afford to offend the Gu God sect." "Do you think you can run?" "He is already outside the door." But the Gu God sect is not easy to offend. Just when everyone was in a dilemma, a voice rang out. A cold voice sounded in the living room. "Family head Yun, you can't afford to offend the Gu God sect, but can you afford to offend me, Kong Taichu?" Everyone looked toward the source of the voice. Suddenly, a tall and imposing figure appeared in front of the window. They didn't even notice when he came in or how he came in. Everyone's hearts tightened again. Even Yun Yen was shocked. This young man was Kong Taichu? He was only 20 years old. Just based on this movement technique alone, they were definitely not a match for Jiang Tian. It could be said that if Jiang Tian wanted to take their lives, they would have died long ago. "I didn't know that Master Kang's Dharmakaya would come to my humble abode. Please forgive me." Wu Yingxiong stood up happily and walked quickly to Jiang Tian. He held his fists in front of his chest and lowered his head. He said in the most respectful tone he had ever used in his life, "It has been a long time. After so many years, I never expected that Grandmaster Jiang has already stepped into the perfection stage of the deity realm and suppressed the world with his might." Seeing this, the other people's hearts tightened. They hurriedly bowed and said in a low voice, "Greetings, Master Kong, from the two sects and three families in the Southwest." Beside them, many of their disciples were shocked, and their eyes were wide open as they looked at Jiang Tian in horror. The 5 powerhouses in the Southwest were highly respected and arrogant. Usually, even the mayor and the secretary couldn't meet them. But now, they were so respectful to this young man in his early 20s. They even seemed to be afraid of him. What was wrong with him? Jiang Tian looked at Yun Yen and said lightly, "Family head Yun, right? You know where the Gu God sect is. Are you sure you don't want to tell me?" Yun Yen was shocked to the point his body suddenly trembled. He lowered his head like a cowering quail and begged bitterly, "Grandmaster Jiang, I'm truly in a difficult position. My son is you're courting death." Jiang Tian's eyes suddenly turned cold as he shouted fiercely, "Master Kong, please don't be angry. Please forgive me. Let this old man think about it before making a decision." Yun Yen was so scared that his knees went soft and he was about to kneel down. "Father, why do you have to kneel down to him?" However, he didn't kneel down. A handsome young man behind him pulled him up, stepped out of the crowd, and shouted angrily, "Master Kong, right? Aren't you being too arrogant? We know where the Gu God sect is, but we don't have the obligation to tell you. If we don't tell you, you will kill all of us. Do you still respect the rules of the martial arts world?" His name was Yun Lan, the youngest son of Yun Yen. He had been spoiled since childhood and had reached the initial level of internal force. He was arrogant and domineering in the southwest. After all, he was still young and didn't know the secret information of Kong Teichu. He thought he was a cultivation genius. How could the young man in front of him compare with him except that he was fast? Seeing that Jiang Tian forced his father to kneel down, he was so angry that he pointed at Jiang Tian and shouted, "Shut up!" Jiang Tian raised his hand and shot out a finger radiance. Everyone saw a golden light flash in front of them. Then Yun Lan flew more than 10 meters away like a rag doll and fell into the yard. He covered his blood-stained chest and struggled for a while. Apparently, he was seriously injured and couldn't stand up. Yun Yen exclaimed when he saw this. He wrung his hands and sighed, but he didn't dare to blame Jiang Tian in the slightest. Hiss! Seeing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, and their faces were filled with shock. Yun Lan was a famous young martial Dao master in the southwest, but he couldn't bear the power of this person's finger radiance. It was horrible. Rules? I Kong Teichu am the rules. Jiang Tian sneered, "What rules do you know?" When the adults were talking, how could a brat like you have the right to interrupt? If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will kill you. Master Kong, why do you have to make things difficult for a junior? The Grand Magus stepped forward and said coldly with anger in his eyes, "The Yun family just needs some time to think about it. They didn't reject it outright. I'm afraid it will backfire if you make such a big fuss." Originally, he was very afraid of Jiang Tian and had been persuading Yun Yen to cooperate with Jiang Tian. However, when he saw Jiang Tian directly injure Yun Yen, he could not help but feel angry. This was truly condescending, treating the heroes of the Southwest as a bunch of clay chickens and pottery dogs. "Dad, it's none of your business. Why are you standing up for him?" The young Grand Magus was startled. He tried to hold the Grand Magus back but failed. He stomped his feet in frustration. "Are you threatening me, Grand Magus?" Jiang Tian's eyes turned cold as the golden lake on his forehead rippled. Boom! The immortal general in the shape of Guan Yu jumped out. He was wearing golden armor and looked mighty. He slashed with the green dragon crescent blade. "Master Kong, this old man wouldn't dare." Seeing the anger on Jiang Tian's face, the Grand Magus was startled. He quickly apologized, but the immortal general had already attacked. Shit! He hurriedly made a hand seal with both hands and cast out 5 to 6 secret spells. At the same time, the few Dharma artifacts hanging from his waist and neck were activated together. The Dharma artifacts flashed and filled the sky, trying to block Jiang Tian's attack. However, it was useless. Many spells and Dharma artifacts were shattered by the blade. The Grand Magus felt as if he had been hit in the chest by a high-speed train. He stumbled a few steps backward as blood spurted out from his eyes, nose, mouth, and mouth. "Grandmaster Jiang, please quell your anger. We will persuade the Yun family to tell us where the Gu God sect is. If they don't tell us, they will become the enemy of all the overlords in the southwest region. You don't have to do anything, we will kill the Yun family." Seeing this, the Grand Magus, Soundless Shadow, Hua Wanfang, Qin Xinyu, Wu Xiong, and many other overlords dropped to their knees and trembled uncontrollably. Wu Xiong was the most powerful martial artist in the southwest region. But when it came to Dharma spells, the Grand Magus was the most powerful. He had entered the path of Dao through the ancient Magus arts, and his Dharma power was immeasurable. He had reached the peak of the Dao reaching level and was close to reaching the Dao body. However, his overwhelming Dharmic powers and Dharmic artifacts were nothing compared to Jiang Tian's golden armor general. They could not even withstand a single blow. Jiang Tian clasped his hands behind his back and said coldly, "Gu God sect dares to kidnap my friend. How dare you? You don't know what's good for you." His gaze was cold as he looked at Yun Yen, and he said indifferently, "Today, I'll definitely annihilate their entire clan and leave no one alive. Do you think I won't be able to find them if you don't tell me? Do you think I will let your son go if you don't tell me? Yun Yan, what are you waiting for? Do you want to get us all killed? If you don't tell us, then don't blame us. Everyone tried to persuade Yun Yan. Some of them even threatened him. Uncle Yun, are you out of your mind? Even if you don't tell him, he will know everything. Also, you will have to sacrifice your soul energy. Young Sorcerer God was so anxious that he was jumping up and down. Young Sorcerer God is trying to say that his soul energy is so powerful that he has mastered the soul-searching technique. Yun Yan suddenly understood what Young Sorcerer God was trying to say. He knelt on the ground and begged. Master Kong, this old man will lead the way for you. I only beg Grandmaster Jiang to spare my son's life on account of his young and ignorant age. All right, let's go now. Jiang Tian said nothing and walked out of the door. Yun Yan followed him out without hesitation. Jiang Tian came to the courtyard and casually threw a pill into Yun Lan's mouth. He said without stopping, I will spare your life for your father's sake. However, your cultivation is only 30% of what it used to be. Take your time to cultivate. This pill is so magical. The pill melted as soon as it entered Yun Lan's mouth. Yun Lan felt warm and comfortable. Although his cultivation had dropped to the iron body level, his combat power seemed to have increased. Thank you, Master Kong, for sparing my life. I will go with you. Suddenly, he was filled with gratitude and admiration. He climbed to his feet and followed Jiang Tian out of the door. Everyone in the living room looked at each other in awe. With the help of Young Sorcerer God, the old Sorcerer God struggled to stand up. He sighed with lingering fear. Master Jiang showed mercy just now. Otherwise, my divine soul would have been shattered on the spot. Father, why did you help him? If Master Kong used 10% of his soul energy, you would have been crippled. Young Sorcerer God said angrily. Hua Wanfang's face was as pale as a sheet, her body shivered uncontrollably as she said in a trembling voice, that godly general is almost corporeal. Grandmaster Jiang's cultivation, especially his mental strength, is too terrifying. Chapter 469. Do you really think that Master Kong is a pushover? Back when the experts from the Dark World invaded the Jiang family, Grandmaster Jiang had bathed Jin Ling in blood, killing hundreds of them. Even now, the entire Dark World is trembling in fear. Wu Wingxiong snorted and said, From now on, we have to stay away from them and keep our distance. We can't afford to offend them. Hua Wanfang said with lingering fear. Hua Wanfang, I used to think that you were a smart girl, but now I realize that you are just a fool. Wu Wingxiong gave her a disdainful glance and then said excitedly, This is a great opportunity. This is a great opportunity. If we can use this opportunity to latch onto Grandmaster Jiang's thigh, our 2 sects and 3 families will have a much more stable position in the southwest. That's right. Master Kong is an immortal state warrior. With his guidance, we can improve by leaps and bounds. The great Magus's eyes glinted with excitement. Then he cracked a smile and said, All the disciples of the Ghost Witch sect will go out and help Master Kong. Count me in. Qin Xinyu nodded. The House of Shadow Blight will join in as well. Hua Wanfang said hurriedly. Under the call of these overlords, 6 transcendent grandmasters, 5 perfected cultivators, and over 100 spellcasters marched toward the Gu God sect. Other than that, the members of the Heaven Alliance had also arrived at Kuan City to meet with the Wu family. Hua Qingtian, Zhao Yuankuan, Wei Feilong, 3 veteran grandmasters, a dozen new grandmasters, and a few hundred internal Force Iron Body disciples followed closely behind the Heaven Alliance. This was the first time that the Heaven Alliance had taken the initiative to attack. However, Jiang Tian didn't wait for the Heaven Alliance to arrive. He was worried about Ling Er's safety and was burning with anxiety. He also knew that speed was the most important thing in war, so he had already boarded a helicopter and left first. This was not the first time that Jiang Tian had come to the 100,000 mountain range. He had been here once when he was fighting for the frost crystal at the White Ape Valley. But that time, he did not enter the hinterland of the 100,000 mountains. He was only at the periphery. The terrain here was too complicated. The mountains were steep, the ravines crisscrossed, and the towering trees covered the sky. The forest was filled with fog, poisonous insects, and ferocious beasts. Even a martial arts master with internal force cultivation would not dare to rashly enter. It could be said that without Yun Yan leading the way, Jiang Tian would need 10 days to half a month to find Ling Er's location no matter how strong his divine sense was. Soundless Shadow, the junior house lord of the House of Shadowblight, sat in the pilot's seat of an AC-312 helicopter. He was wearing a flight suit, a leather flight cap, and a pair of windshield goggles. He was showing off his flying skills by flying at breakneck speed. In the cabin, Jiang Tian sat gloomily, accompanied by the great magus, Hua Wanfang, Wu Xiong, and Yun Yan. Behind this helicopter, more than a dozen helicopters formed a formation. They spread out like wild goose wings, looking majestic. There were even heavy weapons hanging from them. The Wu family was very influential in the southwest region. Many of them held positions in the police force, so they had a lot of armed forces under their command. Moreover, this matter also alarmed Chao Shixiang, and old Chao also greeted him. The local police force cooperated fully. In fact, the Gu God sect had committed too many crimes in the southwest region. The police had wanted to crack down on them for a long time, but they had not been able to locate them until now. You two sects and 3 major families are so powerful. If you work together, can't you destroy the Gu God sect? Jiang Tian said coldly in the cabin. His mind was in a mess and he was extremely anxious. If he didn't say anything, he was worried that he would go crazy. Master Kong, there is something you don't know. The great magus heaved a sigh and lamented. The Gu God sect is a real hidden sect. The Ghost Witch sect and the House of Shadowblight are only semi-hidden sections. The Gu God sect's power is beyond our imagination. As far as I know, they have at least 50 transcendent state cultivators. Some of them are even at the peak of the transcendent state. Maybe they even have half-step immortal state or immortal state cultivators. 50 transcendent state cultivators, and some of them are at the peak of the transcendent state? That sounds impressive. Jiang Tian clicked his tongue as a cold light flashed in his eyes. The Gu God sect used to be a small semi-hidden sect. They were not very powerful. They only had 2 or 3 transcendent state cultivators. The great magus said. However, 10 years ago, they obtained a book called the Gu God's Art and all of their disciples' power skyrocketed. Moreover, they are recruiting disciples and worshippers, and their strength is unimaginably strong. They used Gu worms to absorb the blood essence of the cauldron and convert it into their own power. Jiang Tian sneered. Yun Yan, that's why you sent your son to the Gu God sect, right? Seeing the coldness on Jiang Tian's face, Yun Yan shuddered and said in a trembling voice, Master Zhang's eyes are sharp. This disciple does not dare to hide anything. Speaking of which, I first met the Gu God sect 9 years ago. Yun Yan seemed to recall the past and lamented. At that time, my son, Yuni, was stuck at the peak of internal force and couldn't break through to the transcendent state. I went to the 100,000 mountains to look for some herbs for cultivation and wanted to force Yuni's cultivation level up. It was at that time that I met a female disciple of the Gu God sect. That female disciple was called Xue Ziqing. She was very beautiful and seductive. Even now, when I think about it, I still think there is no other woman in the world who could compare to her. That's because you haven't met Qingya. When Jiang Tian heard this, he sneered in his heart. However, he did not interrupt him and only listened to him. At that time, I didn't know that Xue Ziqing was also a disciple of the Gu God sect. She was only an initial success internal force user and was weaker than me. I was accompanied by Qi Laolu, Wen Shuihu, Feng Jizhong, and Lu Tianlai. They were all transcendent state cultivators. What? Qi Laolu? You were there when they disappeared 9 years ago? Everyone else in the cabin was shocked as they stared at Yun Yan with their mouths agape. The 4 people Yun Yan was talking about were all famous martial artists in southwest China. 9 years ago, they were even more powerful than Wu Xiong and the others. However, they disappeared at the same time. No one knew if they were dead or alive. Yun Yen blushed and said helplessly, "Please listen to me. I know I was wrong, but I couldn't resist the temptation at that time." You men can't resist the temptation of beautiful women. You don't even care about your brotherhood. Yun Yen, you called them brothers back then. Hua Wanfang sneered mockingly. Seeing Jiang Tian's gloomy face, he quickly smiled and said, "Of course, Master Kong is not that kind of person. I didn't hide all this because of her beauty." Yun Yan's expression was awkward. His old face was so red that it was about to bleed. After that, he let out a long sigh and said, "Indeed, Xue Ziqing is indeed beautiful. Moreover, old Six Qi and the others all died because of her beauty. Now that I think about it, lust is really like a knife above a knife." "Don't talk so much nonsense. What are you sighing about?" Jiang Tian said lightly. "Yes, Master Kong is right." Yun Yen hurriedly apologized, not daring to talk nonsense. He said concisely, "At that time, we were searching for a spirit herb and trekking in the 100,000 mountains for 7 days straight. From the first day onwards, Qi Laolu, Wen Shuehu, and the others all died violent deaths. Some were bitten by snakes, some fell off the cliff. In the end, only Lu Tunlai, Xue Ziqing, and I were left. One night, I fell asleep in the tent, but because 3 old friends died in a row, I felt uneasy and couldn't sleep well. In the middle of the night, I was awakened by a voice. Then I saw Xue Ziqing inviting Lu Tianlai out. The two of them were so close together that it was obvious they were going to do something good. At that time, I was burning with jealousy. Lu Tianlai was nicknamed Pockmarked Lu and he was one-eyed. He was so ugly. Xue Ziqing liked him but didn't like me. So, I followed them out wanting to catch them together and threaten Xue Ziqing. After all, the tigress in Pockmarked Lu's family is very powerful. Don't you find it disgusting?" Hua Wanfang wanted to curse again, but she saw that Jiang Tian was listening attentively. When he heard her interrupt, his face darkened and she immediately shut up. Yun Yen smiled and said, "The two of them walked to a cave 1 kilometer away from the camp and directly made love. Xue Ziqing was very passionate and took the initiative. I won't go into detail. I was about to rush out and catch them in the act. Unexpectedly, Lu Tianlai's body suddenly trembled and his muscles withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, he became a mummy. Xue Ziqing pushed him away and didn't even bury him. I found that her qi and blood were more than 10 times the original. It turned out that she had swallowed all of Lu Tianlai's cultivation in the process of making love. What? Does that mean the others died in the same way? There are goo worms in her body that can devour essence and blood, and it should be in that part. Everyone exclaimed and their faces changed drastically. Although Yun Yan's explanation was very simple, the thought of Xue Ziqing taking people's lives and swallowing their cultivation in the process of making love was creepy. "Yes, it's like this," Yun Yan said with a serious face. She had swallowed all of their cultivation. In 7 days, Xue Ziqing had reached the peak of the transcendent state from the initial level of internal force cultivation. She reached the peak of the transcendent state from the initial level of internal force cultivation in 7 days. That is a great achievement. Wu Yingxiong's eyes lit up as he exclaimed. A martial artist's cultivation was like sailing against the current. It would take years of hard work to reach the peak of the transcendent state from the initial level of internal force cultivation, let alone the transcendent state. Xue Ziqing's speed of improvement was like a myth. If they had such a secret art, they could have mass-produced overlords. As long as there were enough martial artists for them to absorb, they could even reach the immortal state. The great Magus said with a serious face. Chen Xinyu nodded in agreement. Xue Ziqing had reached the peak of the transcendent state in 7 days. 9 years had passed, so what was her cultivation level now? It was unimaginable. So, you were not seduced by her beauty, but by her ability to increase your cultivation level. Hua Wanfang said with a complicated expression. Chapter 470. I was only at initial transcendent state at that time, so I didn't dare to fight with her. I was so scared that I turned around and ran away. Yun Yan ignored Hua Wanfang's sarcasm and let out a wry smile. However, she stopped me and said that she wanted to have sex with me as well. I didn't dare to do that, so I knelt down and begged for mercy. She threatened to kill me if I didn't have sex with her. I suddenly remembered that I was the only one who knew the location of the spirit grass, but she didn't. So I used this to threaten her instead. She thought for a long time, trying to figure out which one was more valuable to her, my blood essence or the spirit herb. In the end, she let me go and asked for the spirit herb. However, she said that she wanted me to help her find the spirit herb for 50 years. Although I was one of the 3 most powerful martial arts families in southwest China, I was just a slave who helped her find the spirit herb. With that said, a bitter and self-deprecating look appeared on his face. He sighed and said, "As for my son, Yun Yi, joining the Gu God sect was a way to make use of each other. She sent my son to the Gu God sect as a hostage so that I wouldn't tell her the secret of the Gu God sect. She also used the Gu God art to help my son improve his cultivation and motivate me to do my job well. However, I insisted on knowing the location of the Gu God sect. Otherwise, I was worried that she would kill me one day because she thought that I was useless." "Uncle Yun, you also reached transcendent state within a year. Did you use the same method? How many girls have you hurt?" Soundless Shadow chuckled in the cockpit and asked frivolously. "Cut the crap. Speed up." Jiang Tian's heart was burning with anxiety as he angrily scolded. Soundless Shadow was so scared that his body suddenly trembled and he immediately focused on flying the plane. Yun Yan continued, "Master Kong, there is one more thing that I need to remind you. Although the Gu God sect is a heretical sect, they have many friends in the martial arts world. They are even friends with the 7 most powerful martial arts families in Yanjin." "What? They are friends with the 7 most powerful families?" Everyone's face was suddenly filled with shock. Everyone felt as if they were facing a great enemy and were on tenterhooks. In the martial arts world of Huaxia, Hua Qingtian of the Central Plains, Li Tuofeng of the Northwest, Wu Yingxiong of the Southwest, Yi Wudao of the Jiangxia, Zhao Yuankuan, Wei Feilong, and the others were all valiant existences who dominated their respective provinces. However, it paled in comparison to the 7 major martial arts families in Yanjin. The 7 major families were filled with powerful overlords. Each of them had a few transcendent grandmasters and even an immortal state warrior. Moreover, they were close to the political center and had great influence in the secular world. What was even more frightening was that they had the support of Kunlun, Amei, Wudong, Diansong, and many other semi-hidden sects behind them. In the martial arts world, there was another name for the 7 major families in Yanjin, the ruling family. In other words, once there was a dispute or even a battle between the martial arts families of Huaxia, they would have to ask the 7 great families for a vote. If the 7 great families couldn't stand it, they could intervene or suppress them directly. If any martial arts family didn't submit to the 7 great families and didn't respect their decision, they would immediately be razed to the ground by the 7 great families. In the 80s, the 7 great families had suppressed many martial arts families, such as the Hu family of Jinzhong, the Liao family, the Qiu family of Heshi, the Wu family of Dongshan City. More than a dozen families had been eliminated by the 7 great families. Any one of the 7 great families of Yanjin had the power to suppress the Hua family of the Central Plains and the Wu family of the Southwest. However, after the long formation operation in the 80s and 90s, the martial arts world became peaceful and there were fewer conflicts. Therefore, the 7 ruling families didn't intervene much, but they were still powerful and everyone was afraid of them. It could be said that the existing martial arts families like the Hua family of the Central Plains and the Wu family of the Southwest were more law-abiding and didn't dare to disturb the secular world. They often paid tribute to the 7 great families of Yanjin to avoid the fate of being eradicated. It's not just the 7 great families. There are even rumors that the Gu God sect has connections with Kunlun, Amei, Wudong, Tianshan, Diansong, and many other sects. Yun Yan's words were shocking again. This time, everyone in the room was speechless. They could still look up to the 7 great families and have a chance to befriend them. However, These large sects were out of their reach, and they didn't even have the courage to befriend them. These sects had a history of hundreds or even thousands of years. They had a deep foundation and unfathomable strength. Kunlun, Shu Mountain, and Wudong were especially powerful. It could be said that any one of their elders could raise their families and sects to the ground. But these are all traditional, righteous sects. Why would they befriend evil cultivators? Jiang Tian asked with a dark face. Not for cultivation, but for cultivation? Yun Yen smiled bitterly and shook his head. Any martial artist, in their long and arduous cultivation, will encounter a bottleneck and be unable to break through for a long time. At this time, they will need to rely on external forces. The Gu God sect has many ways to use Gu worms to increase their cultivation. Master Kong, when we arrive at the Gu God sect, should we talk to them first? Hua Wanfang's face changed. She smiled and suggested. If they are willing to hand over your friend, we don't have to fight them, hee. Just a few semi-hidden sects are enough to scare you. Jiang Tian smiled coldly. Hee, since the Gu God sect dared to kidnap my friend, they should be prepared to be killed. Today, I will destroy the Gu God sect and kill every single one of them. I don't care if they are from Kunlun or Shu Mountain, I will kill anyone who stands in my way. Everyone was shocked by Yun Yan's words. Some admired Jiang Tian's domineering attitude, while others were uneasy. They didn't want to offend the powerful sects and families behind the Gu God sect. Just as everyone was having their own thoughts, Yun Yan suddenly raised his hand and pointed at a mountain peak. His eyes focused as he said, "Does everyone see that? We have arrived at the Gu God sect." That's where the Gu God sect is. Everyone looked at the mountain. A mountain that pierced through the clouds appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The mountain was steep and looked like an unsheathed sword. The entire mountain was so tall that it pierced through the clouds. It was thick at the top and thin at the bottom. There was no grass growing on the mountain. It was flat like a wall. There was a dense forest at the top of the mountain. It was about 5 to 6 miles in radius. Even an expert rock climber wouldn't be able to reach the top with modern equipment. At the foot of the mountain was a deep valley surrounded by dense forest. It was about 4 miles in radius. There were many mudflats and swamps. Poisonous insects and wild animals were everywhere. This mountain is called Sword Insertion Peak. The valley below is called Decapitation Valley, Yun Yan said. This sword insertion peak is very vivid. It is like a sword inserted into the ground. The tip of the sword is the mountain, and the hilt is the peak. It is thick at the top and thin at the bottom. It is hard to climb such a place. No wonder no one knows where they are. But how do they get up there? Wu Wingxiong asked. The Gu God sect is very rich, richer than you. They have helicopters. They can also climb up and down with ropes. Yun Yan explained. I heard that the Decapitation Valley is very dangerous, Hua Wanfang said suspiciously. It is said that there are piles of bones and a group of decapitation ghosts. Many explorers never came back once they went in. There is such a legend. When I sent my son here, he came in a helicopter. I didn't see it with my own eyes. Yun Yan said. But they are definitely not ghosts. I think they are half-dead people whose cultivation was devoured by Gu worms. Well, the Gu God sect is really good at choosing a place. Jiang Tian's eyes became sharper and murderous. No one dared to enter the 100,000 mountains. The legend of the Decapitation Valley alone was enough to scare away those travelers and explorers. Coupled with the steep mountains, it was no wonder that they could hide for so many years and no one knew where they were. Moreover, there was an exquisite small concealment array on the mountain. If it wasn't for Yun Yan, an experienced horse who knew the way, leading the way, he was afraid that his divine sense would have been deceived by them. I see their helipad. Master Kong, sit tight. I am going to land. Ing reminded them silently. No need. Crack. Jiang Tian stood up and walked to the cabin door. He opened it and cold wind blew in. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Jiang Tian didn't use his flying sword. He jumped into the air and crashed into a palace from a few hundred meters above the ground. In the central hall of the Gu God sect, There were colorful lights hanging high in the sky. Many guests were drinking and chatting with each other. The Gu God sect has been developing rapidly all these years thanks to the support of all the young masters. Have some tea. A hale and hearty old man with a ruddy complexion sat at the head of the table, drinking tea and chatting with a few guests who had come from afar. Dressed in a red robe, he was beaming with joy. He was holding an antique teacup decorated with blue and white flowers. He was brewing pu, or tea, which was picked from the only remaining tea tree in the world and had been treasured for decades. The fragrance of the tea curled up in spirals and the green smoke lingered outside. Behind him stood a few men and women. They were both young and old, and their temperaments were all different. However, their auras were all powerful, as deep as the sea. Xue Ziqing, who was wearing a red wedding dress, had already reached the immortal state initial success. However, she wasn't the most powerful among them. She was only in the middle. Old Gu King, today is the day you are marrying your 18th concubine. Also, you have finally reached the immortal state phenomenal success. This is a double blessing. We have been blessed by you many times, so how could we not come to congratulate you? Below the seat, a handsome young man with an imposing aura gently waved his folding fan as he spoke with a smile. If Chen Zifan and Zhang Danfeng from Yanjin were there, they would have been shocked and would have bowed to him respectfully. He was the second son of the Bai family in Beijing, the head of the 7 major families in Beijing. He was also Bai Diqing's younger brother, Bai Jingting. Chapter 471. The Bai family was one of the most influential families in the mortal world. They were also one of the most influential families in the world. Not even Chao Shixiang and Yi Zhantian dared to provoke them. Among the 4 generations of the Bai family, Bai Diqing was undoubtedly the most outstanding one. He was expected to be the next family lord. When he was a teenager, he was the most powerful young master in Yanjin and was the spiritual leader of many young masters. Later on, because he was too arrogant, mischievous, and had caused too much trouble, he was sent to the Mount Shu Sword sect to gain experience. However, no one had expected that he would be able to display such incredible talent in martial arts in the Mount Shu Sword sect. In just 2 years, he rose from a servant disciple to an inner disciple, then an elite inner disciple. In the end, he became the last disciple of the Mount Shu Sword sect's sect master, Hao Taichong. In a large sect like the Mount Shu Sword sect, no matter how powerful one's background was, it was useless. After all, everyone was either born in a good family or was extremely talented. In other words, Bai Diqing had won all of this with his own strength. Now, he had returned to the mortal world and was in charge of the Condor unit. On one hand, he was expanding his territory in the mortal world, supporting political agents and nurturing large enterprises and tycoons. On the one hand, the Condor team had been recruiting members in the martial arts world, constantly increasing the strength of the Condor team. Killing and conquering, he was now showing signs of surpassing the elders like Yi Zhantin. Although Bai Jingting was only an initial transcendent state cultivator, he was an outer sect disciple of the Mount Shu Sword sect. He was also Bai Diqing's most trusted servant. In the Bai family, people like Bai Xiaoyi, who controlled thousands of assets in the Bai family financial group, had to respectfully call him Brother Jingting when they saw him. It could even be said that many of the feudal officials had to give way to Bai Jingting when they saw him. They were extremely respectful and did not dare to provoke him. Hee, thank you so much. I'm sorry for making a fool of myself. Without your support, this old man wouldn't be where he is today. Old Gu King said politely, but he couldn't hide the smug look on his face. Back then, about 10 years ago, the Gu God sect was still a small and broken sect. They were chased by the so-called righteous Dao like a stray dog. Their legacy was about to be destroyed. Fortunately, when he was reconstructing the statue, he found a book of the art of the god of poison in the statue. This Gu God art could be used to harvest yin to supplement yang or yang to supplement yin. It could also be used to cultivate both yin and yang to improve one's cultivation. Now, the Gu God sect had soared into the sky. Not only did he and his disciples become more powerful, but he could also use this secret art to make friends with the Bai family of Yanjin City and other powerful families. Even the guardians, elders, and peak masters of the large sects of Mount Shu treated him as their best friend and tried their best to befriend him. In just 10 years, the Gu God sect had become one of the top 10 sects in the Yin sects. Even the Langyi Academy, the Nine Ming faction, the Jinggang Temple, and the Three Emperors' Palace were suppressed by them. Next, they might even surpass the large sects like Mount Shu and Kunlun. Old Gu King, you have reached the divine realm culmination. Even in Shu Mountain, how many people can reach this level of cultivation? Bai Jingting praised him. He waved his hand and took a long black box from his subordinate. He held it with both hands and presented it to the Gu God sect with a flattering smile. This is the God Sacrificing Sword, one of the top 30 divine weapons in Mount Shu. I am giving it to you on behalf of my brother. I wish you a long life and eternal youth. God's Sacrificing Sword. This is a generous gift. Jingting, you have traveled thousands of miles to bring it here. How can an old man accept it? Hearing that, the Gu King was surprised at first, but then he accepted it politely. I can take it, I can take it. Bai Jingting's face was full of humility. He said with a smile, my brother said that his master, Master Taichung of Mount Shu, taught him swordsmanship, and Mr. Gu King increased his cultivation. You are all his masters. Since you're my big brother's benefactor and teacher, then you're my senior. How can it be troublesome for me to run errands for you? It's clearly my honor. That's right. We all relied on old Gu King's grace to break through so quickly. We owe old Gu King too much. Young Master Jingting is right. How can ordinary people have the chance to step into the Gu King's palace? Next to him, several young masters from the big families in Yanjin also flattered him with gratitude and respect in their eyes. Young Master Jingting, then I have to return the favor. The Gu King was happy to hear that. He laughed and waved his hand. A red worm shot out from his wide sleeve and fell into Bai Jingting's hand. Old Gu King, this is... Bai Jingting looked at the worm in his hand. It was the size of a thumb and crystal clear. It was surging with blood qi and surrounded by red clouds. It was like the most magnificent ruby carving. The Gu King leaned lazily on the wide dragon throne and said with a faint smile, this is a qi-swallowing worm. It has absorbed the blood qi of 3 initial transcendent state cultivators. It is very full. Infuse it into your body and it will help you break through to the phenomenal transcendent state. Thank you, old Gu King. Bai Jingting trembled with excitement. He knelt on the ground and bowed his head. Don't be so polite. Sit down and absorb and refine it according to the secret art I taught you. The Gu King waved his hand and said politely, yes, old Gu King. Bai Jingting sat cross-legged and placed the Gu King on his wrist. The old Gu King muttered something and made a series of hand gestures to activate the qi-swallowing bug. Finally, he raised his hand and pointed at the qi-swallowing bug from his finger. Suddenly, the qi-swallowing worm wriggled for a while and quickly became shriveled. Streams of blood qi were injected into Bai Jingting's body. Bai Jingting's body convulsed and trembled violently as if he had taken drugs. The blood vessels on his neck popped like earthworms. Powerful! It feels so good to be powerful. In the blink of an eye, his blood qi surged. His face turned ruddy and even a little purple. He could not help but roar to the sky. After a while, Bai Jingting stood up suddenly. His eyes shone brightly and his aura was more than 10 times stronger than before. It gave people a strong sense of oppression. He looked at his hands excitedly and the corners of his mouth twitched as he laughed wildly. Old Gu King, I feel like I can smash a mountain with one slap. This feeling of power is so good. It feels so good to break through so quickly. He kowtowed again and said solemnly, Old Gu King, you have given me a treasure worm. From now on, Jingting will serve old Gu King like a parent. I will follow old Gu King's orders without question. You are too kind. Get up. Old Gu King nodded with satisfaction and smiled. By the way, the girl with the E-wood bone frame is injured. Her blood qi is not strong enough. When you go back, pass a message to young Master Bai. This old man will find a better one for them next time. Spirit body bone frame is already very good. Young Master Bai is very grateful. Bai Jingting laughed and could not help but sigh. Old Gu King, your Gu God art is really heaven-defying. In the future, who in Huaxia's martial arts world can stop your rise? Yes. According to your cultivation speed, you will be the #1 martial artist in Huaxia. Even Kunlun will have to follow your orders. That's right. The key point is that old Gu King is kind-hearted and benevolent. All the martial artists in the world are indebted to you. Your old friends and relatives are all over the world. Meng Chang is the same in this world. Those sect masters can't compare with you. That's right. Our Gu God sect keeps a low profile and does not want to show off. Otherwise, other sects would not be able to compete with us. Who can be your opponent? The other young masters also began to flatter him one after another. Flattering words flew up and down like colorful butterflies. If the old Gu King was happy and rewarded them with 1 or 2 Gu worms, wouldn't they be rich? I have to say, I admire the old Gu King the most. He is so energetic and strong. He is even fiercer than the young men. One of the young masters looked at Xue Ziqing in a red wedding dress and teased. Sister Xue can dual cultivate with the old Gu King. The harmony of the zither and yin and yang will be in harmony. I am afraid that both of your cultivation will increase by several times. It is this lowly servant who is indebted to my master. Xue Ziqing covered her mouth and giggled, her face blushing red. Instantly, it was as if 100 flowers had bloomed, charming beyond compare and captivating. Sigh, second brother is such a wastrel. He wants Ziqing to warm my feet. He is almost 70 years old and he still wants to have a concubine. What a joke! The old Gu King glanced at his second disciple. He seemed to be scolding him, but his eyes were full of admiration. The second disciple, Su Shijie, smiled and cupped his hands. I'm just being filial. Master, please don't scold me. Bai Jingting had been through a lot and knew how to talk. He laughed and said, Old master, this is called a pear blossom suppressing a begonia. Your treasured sword is still young. Everyone laughed. However, an old woman sitting next to the old Gu King snorted and said in a hoarse voice, Old Gu King, congratulations on marrying a beautiful wife. But don't forget the old when you have a new one. Her face was covered by a black veil and her face could not be seen clearly. However, her voice was extremely cold, like the cry of an owl. It made people shudder. Old Gu Queen, you are already 80 years old. Why are you still jealous? Aren't you a joke? Isn't all of this for the sake of improving our cultivation? Hearing that, the old Gu King's face froze. He seemed to be a little afraid. Deep in his eyes, there was a trace of annoyance. However, he did not dare to do anything. Xue Ziqing quickly knelt in front of the old Gu King. She begged for mercy and said in a soft voice, After old Gu's death, I've always known that only you are the old Gu King's legal wife. I'm just a servant who warms the old Gu King's feet. I'll definitely be filial to you in the future. Little girl, it is good that you know your identity. Remember, I picked you up back then. The old Gu Queen sneered and said fiercely, If you dare to disrespect me in the future, I will take your life. I dare not. Xue Ziqing seemed to be terrified. She kept kowtowing and her body was trembling. Chapter 472. However, old Gu King waved his hand and said, All right, get up. We will be a family in the future, and we will love each other. We have so many friends here, so let's enjoy the banquet together. We all have important matters to attend to, so let's go. He was obviously supporting Xue Ziqing, saying that she would have the same status as old Gu Queen, and old Gu Queen would not be able to bully her. Yes, we have been waiting for a banquet. Since old Gu Empress started talking, Bai Jingting and the others suddenly realized that the Gu God sect, which seemed to be in harmony, was actually very complicated. They had a bad feeling and just wanted to leave as soon as possible, so they all agreed. Old Gu King ordered his disciples to prepare the banquet. Everyone sat around the table and was about to start the banquet. What a powerful aura! Suddenly, old Gu King and the others looked up at the sky. Xue Ziqing was shocked. Oh no, an expert is coming. Before Bai Jingting and the others could react, They heard a loud boom. A huge hole appeared on the roof of the main hall. A figure shot into the main hall like a cannonball and stepped on one of the round tables. Broken wood and cups flew everywhere. Swoosh, swoosh. Everyone quickly stepped back. A young man in white casual clothes stood with his hands behind his back. He had a murderous look on his face. Old Gu King was furious. He slammed the table and said, "Who are you? How dare you barge into the Gu God sect? Are you tired of living?" Jiang Tian stepped forward and asked, "Old Gu King, where is Huang Linger? Hand her over now, or I will kill everyone in the Gu God sect." "Kid, how dare you? Kill everyone in the Gu God sect? Who gave you such confidence?" A disciple behind the old Gu King leaped up and threw a punch at Jiang Tian from above. This punch was like a cannonball that left the barrel of a cannon. Fierce winds howled as it scraped against everyone's faces, causing them to feel pain. Before the punch arrived, the pressure had already arrived. The marble floor began to crack, and the cracks spread out like a spider web. So strong. This is Chen Chunlong, the disciple of the old Gu King. He has already reached the phenomenal state and is a renowned grandmaster in the outside world. This person actually dared to offend the Gu God sect. He is truly foolish and daring. Bai Jingting and the other young masters of Yanjin were stunned and looked at the person who did it with admiration. As for Jiang Tian, in their eyes, he was already deader than dead. Jiang Tian had just scanned the entire Gu God sect with his divine sense, but he didn't find any traces of Huang Linger. Even if Chen Chunlong couldn't even withstand a single blow in his eyes, he still didn't hold back. He swore to threaten and shock Chen Chunlong. Therefore, he used his most powerful killing move right from the start. He raised his hand and condensed a radish-like golden finger radiance, which shot out like a cannonball. The crowd only saw Jiang Tian raise his hand, and before Chen Chunlong could land on the ground, his body exploded in midair. Blood splattered everywhere, and broken bones and limbs flew in all directions. An expert. They don't come with good intentions. He killed Chen Chunlong with one finger. Many people's faces paled as they felt a chill run down their spines. This person was able to kill Chen Chunlong with ease, which meant that he was not an easy opponent. Chen Chunlong was the fifth disciple of the Gu King. He was a transcendent state grandmaster. I don't care who he is. Anyone who offends the Gu God sect will have to die. An old consecrator under the old Gu King called Li Xiangfeng waved his hand, and the sword hanging on his waist flew out of its sheath. Li Xiangfeng used to be an elite disciple of the Tianshan sect. His sword art was so powerful that he had killed several grandmasters. However, he was stuck at the peak of the perfected transcendent state for 30 years. Therefore, he quit the Tianshan sect and asked the old Gu King to help him reach the peak of the transcendent state. This strike of his had the power to destroy the heavens and earth. Everywhere it passed, sword light flickered, sword chi crisscrossed, and cold light filled the air. It was like a bolt of lightning baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, piercing towards Jiang Tian. Yes, capture him and use Gu worms to devour his cultivation for my own use. Suddenly, over 100 elite disciples saw Li Xiangfeng's attack and they were all motivated to attack. The Gu God sect used the Gu insect secret art to increase their cultivation level. These elite disciples were usually at the transcendent state and could be called grandmasters in the outside world. When they attacked together, they were powerful enough to destroy the world. How dare he offend the Gu God sect? I will crush him into a pile of minced meat. A fierce-looking monk growled out, wielding a bronze staff and smashing towards Jiang Tian's head. He used to be the chief arhat of the Arhat Hall of the Diamond Temple. He was a physique refinement grandmaster and could crush a 1,000-pound rock with one strike. I will kill him with poison and turn him into a cadaver demon. A poison expert from the House of Shadowblight and the Gu God sect waved his hand and a swarm of black poisonous bees flew towards Jiang Tian. There were more than 20 of them. They were all from different martial arts sects and clans, each with their own strengths. Their swords and sabers flashed with cold light. Their internal force and aura exploded everywhere. Some of them emitted poisonous gas, while others threw out talismans. All of them were extremely powerful. Even if Yi Zhantian was here, he would have to be careful when dealing with them. Where is she? Facing this, Jiang Tian's expression was calm. He ignored all of these attacks. The old Gu King's face darkened as a mocking smile appeared on his face. However, he didn't say a word. You don't want to talk? Fine, I will kill you until you talk. Jiang Tian sneered and took a step forward. He waved his hand casually. It looked like a simple wave of the hand. But in the eyes of experts, it was like an ancient god that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas, and it possessed a powerful and strange force that could easily destroy everything. Kaboom! With a bang, a surging golden torrent of true essence directly blasted Li Xiangfeng's treasured sword into pieces. Whether it was the sword qi, the sword light, the poisonous wasp, the concealed weapon, or the talisman, all of them were turned into powder in a second, and then the torrent of true essence didn't reduce in the slightest as it blasted Li Xiangfeng into minced meat. However, this was only the beginning. The second step. Jiang Tian waved his finger and sent out a 3-meter-long golden sword aura that beheaded 20 elite disciples. Bush, bush, bush. Blood gushed out of the 20 elite disciples' necks and their heads flew into the air. The third step. Before the heads fell to the ground, Jiang Tian had reached the third step. Jiang Tian raised his hand and swatted at the heads as if he was swatting flies. Kaboom! A giant golden palm, like a millstone, descended from the sky and crushed the void. It was as if a Buddha had slapped down the 5-finger mountain. It directly smashed the big arhat from the Vajra temple into meat paste, and the brass staff was twisted into a fried dough twist. The fourth step. Jiang Tian's 3-finger auras missed the target. The golden finger auras shot out like armor-piercing bullets from a barret. The heads of the sect of Shadow Blight and the other 2 overlords exploded like watermelons. The fifth step. Jiang Tian's little black flying sword finally made its move. Like a black star chasing after the moon, it drew a beautiful arc in the air and pierced through the chests of the 3 consecrated elders and the 12 transcendent state elite disciples. Blood splattered everywhere. Every time Jiang Tian took a step, he would kill many people. Every time he attacked, there would definitely be several experts that would fall. He was like a demon god that reaped lives. It didn't matter if you were a grandmaster, a powerful sword cultivator, or a physique refinement expert, you were no match for him. Break, 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 kill, kill, kill. Jiang Tian was like chopping melons and vegetables, killing mercilessly, washing the path with blood. In a blink of an eye, over 100 overlords were dead. Only the old Gu King and his wife, as well as the 20 sect overlords and sect overlords, were unharmed. You have started a massacre as soon as you arrived at the Gu God sect. May I know who you are? How did the Gu God sect defend you? Even the old Gu King was taken aback by Chen Fan's death. His face darkened as he asked in a deep voice. My name is Kong Teichu. What? You are Kong Teichu? Everyone was taken aback by the revelation. Especially the young lords from Yanjin, their faces paled. Kong Teichu. What a shocking name. The old Gu King's face changed color, but he quickly calmed himself down and cupped his fists in front of his chest. He then said with a smile, So you are the famous Master Kong. This old man has heard so much about you, your reputation resounds like thunder in my ears. However, the Gu God sect and Master Kong have never offended each other. Why are you here to kill us? Jiang Tian held the black flying sword in his hand and sneered, Old Gu King, I have a friend called Wang Lin from Jin City. Did you kidnap her from Fulong Mountain? The Gu God sect had killed dozens of martial artists within a month, so the old Gu King couldn't remember. He looked at his second disciple, Su Shiji. Su Shiji nodded very weakly. The old Gu King understood what Su Shiji meant. He turned around and said with a faint smile, Oh, Master Kong, it was my disciple who did it. This old man is very sorry. However, Master Kong, the Gu God sect is a hidden sect, and we rarely show ourselves in the mortal world. We didn't know that the girl belonged to Master Kong. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done anything to her. Where is she? Jiang Tian asked. Has been killed by the old Gu King. The old Gu Queen suddenly heaved a sigh and said, What? She is dead? Jiang Tian's entire body was trembling. His eyes were so wide open that they looked like they were about to split apart. A piercingly cold, killing intent enveloped his eyes as a surge of murderous aura surged out. The old Gu King felt that the old Gu Queen's words were inappropriate. He didn't kill Huang Linger, and he didn't even see her. She had already been sent to Yanjin City by his disciples. Besides, this cauldron was injured, and Bai Diqing had to wait for her to recover before he could absorb her qi. She must still be alive. However, he didn't correct the old Gu King. He couldn't tell the old Gu King about Bai Diqing. The Gu God sect had its own rules. The cauldron that was given to the Gu God sect couldn't have any problems, and they couldn't ask for the cauldron back. I didn't think that my disciple would actually kidnap Grandmaster Zhang's people. This is really like a flood rushing against the Dragon King's temple. We don't know each other. Seeing Jiang Tian's grief, the old Gu King heaved a sigh and tried to persuade him. However, the dead can't be brought back to life. Master Kong, don't be too sad. The old man didn't mean any harm to Master Kong and the Heavenly Alliance. Master Kong is an open-minded person, and I don't think he would care about it anymore. He chuckled and said earnestly, "Don't worry. As long as you let bygones be bygones, the Heavenly Alliance and the Gu God sect will be close allies. I think Grandmaster Jiang will make a wise choice between a powerful force like the Gu God sect and a mortal girl." Chapter 473. Old Gu King, if all of you commit suicide as an apology, I'll leave your bodies intact. Otherwise, I will pull out your tendons, skin you alive, and tear you into pieces. Thinking of Huang Linger's voice and smile, Jiang Tian's heart was filled with sorrow, as if it was being cut by a knife. His hatred overflowed to the heavens. His hands twitched violently, and he almost burst into tears. "Kong Techu." The smile on the old Gu King's face disappeared and he said coldly, "You are too arrogant. I respect you, that's why I call you Master Kong. If I don't respect you, you are just a bumpkin in the secular world. You are a half-step to immortal state, and you are a powerful figure in the secular world. But you are nothing in my eyes. With your level of cultivation, this old man has already killed countless people. If you know when to advance and when to retreat, and if you can see the big picture, then quickly retreat. This old man won't hold it against you for killing my disciples. Otherwise, this old man will definitely cut you into 1,000 pieces." The Gu God sect was a hidden sect that lived in the middle of nowhere, so they didn't have much information. He had heard about Jiang Tian killing Xiao Bin. However, he had no idea that Jiang Tian had killed Wang Chongyang in the Chinese Society of Singapore and suppressed the Japanese sect of origin. He only thought that Jiang Tian was only half an immortal state warrior and was no match for him. Moreover, the hidden sects were generally more powerful than the martial arts of the secular world. In the eyes of the hidden sects powerhouses, the martial artists of the secular world were just chickens and grass dogs. They were third-rate trash that could not even withstand a single blow. The Gu God sect was not only powerful, but also had the support of many other sects and families. He didn't take Jiang Tian seriously at all. Then go to hell. Hearing this, Jiang Tian didn't waste any time. The flying sword in his hand pierced through the air toward the old Gu King. "Do you think you can kill me?" The old Gu King sneered and waved his hand. With a whoosh, the sacrificial spirit sword that was placed on the table broke through the air and flew towards Xiao Hei's flying sword. "Be careful, great Magus." Seeing this, the remaining dozen warriors and disciples of the great Magus all leaped towards Jiang Tian. This time, other than old Gu Queen, Xue Ziqing, Su Shiji, and Kong Li, these 3 personal disciples, everyone attacked Jiang Tian. For a moment, sword chi crisscrossed, saber light flashed, fists rained down, and auras surged like tides. Some even pulled out their magic tools to attack Jiang Tian. "All of you deserve to die. Die, all of you!" Jiang Tian roared in anger. He stomped his foot and landed on the ground like an ancient god. Suddenly, as if thousands of cannons were bombarding the ground, the marble floor cracked inch by inch. The entire central hall was shaking, and even the sword insertion peak seemed to be shaking. As his foot landed, surging golden true essence gushed out from Jiang Tian's body, like raging waves crashing against the shore, pushing out in all directions. Rumble. Crack. This time, many followers and elite disciples were thrown into the air like scarecrows. Then they fell down in different postures. This time, many more people died. Even those who survived had lost their fighting strength. Clang, clang. At this time, Jiang Tian and Old Gu King's sword light collided violently in the air and then exploded. This time, they were evenly matched. However, considering that Jiang Tian had killed all his followers, Jiang Tian was actually more powerful. Kong Teichu, you are too cruel. Seeing that many followers and disciples were killed, Old Gu King's face changed color. He pointed at Jiang Tian and shouted angrily. Jiang Tian had only attacked a few times, but he had destroyed the Gu God sect that Old Gu King had worked hard for decades. Now, except for Old Gu Queen, Shui Ziqing, Su Shiji, and Kong Li, almost all the followers were dead. I am cruel? You dared to kill my woman, kill my servant Ghost Kick, I will tear you to pieces. You will be the next one to die. Jiang Tian's face was cold and murderous. He dragged his sword that was dripping with blood and approached Old Gu King with an indomitable will. Kong Teichu, you think too highly of yourself. Go to hell. Old Gu King waved his sword and charged at Jiang Tian again. This sword light was 3 feet long and more than 10 meters long. It was extremely powerful. Although it was still some distance away from Miyamoto Geniki, it was definitely enough to defeat Xiao Bin and Wang Chongyan. Jiang Tian slashed out with his sword, shattering the sword light. Jiang Tian was about to attack again. Unexpectedly, Old Gu King spat out a mouthful of blood and leaped back. He glared at Old Gu Queen and Shui Ziqing and sneered, my wife and 3 disciples actually want to plot against me. Interesting. Old Gu King, kill yourself. You have killed too many people. Now Kong Teichu is here. God wants you to die. Your consecrated disciples are all dead. How much longer can you hold on? Old Gu Queen said coldly. Jiang Tian's divine sense had detected that Old Gu Queen, Shui Ziqing, Su Shiji, and Kong Li had released a few Gu worms into Old Gu King's body. Master Kong, I didn't expect that I would be plotted against by 2 of my disciples and 2 of my wives. I want to know why I died. This is not too much, is it? Old Gu King cupped his hands at Jiang Tian and bowed deeply. Kong Teichu, I will repay what I owe you today. After I settle this, I will tell you where Huang Linger is and cut my throat to atone for my sins. I will not run away. Humph, you think you can run away? I will kill you like a chicken. Jiang Tian's expression was cold as he pressed forward without stopping. He flicked his sword with his finger, and it emitted a clear cry that was like a dragon's roar as his battle intent rose steadily. Master Kong, today, I, Shui Ziqing, and 2 disciples swear to kill Lu Yen. Master Kong, please wait for a moment. Old Gu Queen cupped her fists and bowed. No, he kidnapped and killed my woman. I will kill him. And all of you will die with him. Jiang Tian was filled with battle intent and killing intent. In fact, he had always treated Huang Linger as his woman, but he had never publicly admitted it. Now that he said it, he could not help but feel agitated and sorrowful. 2 streams of hot tears rolled down his cheeks. Huang Linger must have longed for his approval, but even before she was kidnapped, he had kept a distance from her. Master Kong, I will tell you the truth. Old Gu Queen's expression changed a few times. Suddenly, she made up her mind and said, your woman is not dead, and her life is not in danger for the time being. What? Where is she? Jiang Tian was overjoyed and asked. Master Kong, don't worry. I only need a few minutes to end this bastard's life. By then, I will tell you everything, and even lead the way to your woman. Old Gu Queen's face flashed with a hint of viciousness. But if you kill this bastard now, I will kill myself immediately. You will never know where your woman is. The Gu God sect had a way to kill themselves with Gu worms. If they wanted to kill themselves, he would not be able to stop them. Jiang Tian hesitated for a while. Then, Old Gu Queen said, Master Kong, you must hate this bastard very much. You can't wait to cut him into pieces. But think about it. If he died in the hands of his disciples and wife, wouldn't he be in more pain? Master Kong, give me some time to kill this old witch and her disciples. I will also help you find your woman. Old Gu King cupped his fists again and then looked at Old Gu Queen angrily. Bitch, why are you doing this to me? We have been friends for decades. How dare you kill me when I am in danger? The grace of a knot? What a joke. This face of mine is all thanks to you. You and I are not even husband and wife. Old Gu Queen abruptly tore off the black veil on her face, revealing a face full of crisscrossing wounds. In addition to the knife marks, his face was also densely packed with holes, like wood that had been eaten by worms. The left side of her face was completely rotten, revealing her white cheekbones, teeth, and tongue. So scary. That's so scary. Apart from Jiang Tian, who used his spiritual perception to scan her face, he was already prepared for this, and his expression was calm. Bai Jingting and the other young masters of Yan Jin gasped and stepped back as if they had seen a ghost. Is it scary? Is it ugly? Old Gu Queen smiled sadly as 2 streams of tears rolled down from her sunken eyes. She sneered coldly, back then, I was much prettier than Xue Ziqing. These scars were all caused by Old Gu King. What? This is Old Gu King? Why? Everyone looked at the Old Gu King in disbelief. In order to make this old lady give him all the profound yin qi, he actually used gu worms to eat all the flesh on my face, turning me into something that is neither human nor ghost. This person's heart is as vicious as a snake's. Today, I must tear him into pieces. Old Gu Queen gnashed her teeth. Suddenly, there was a roar outside the door. Bai Jingting and the others were shocked again. An outer disciple covered in blood ran in and shouted, oh no, someone is rushing in. People from the 2 gates and the 3 major families are attacking. But then he saw many consecrators and elite disciples fall to the ground. The entire hall was like a sea of corpses. He was so scared that he sat on the ground. However, Old Gu Queen and the others didn't even look at the disciple. They just stared at each other. The Old Gu King roared fiercely, Lang, you bitch! Don't you know why I did this to you? My beloved women, Rubo, Green Bamboo, Tsueme, Qin Shui. Didn't you kill them all? You are the one who is despicable, shameless, and vicious. You deserve it. Yes, I killed them all. Old Gu Queen gradually calmed down. She seemed to think of the past and smiled faintly. Back then, you were the eldest disciple of Gu God's sect, and I was the most talented junior sister. We were engaged when we were teenagers. At that time, you liked to sing the folk songs of Miao Village to me. You picked azaleas from the back of the mountain for me and drew my eyebrows for me. You even bought all kinds of strange things for me. I regarded you as my only lover in this life. Under the guidance of our master, we got married and planted the husband and wife united mind Gu. We swore in front of our Grandmaster's statue that we would be united forever and never betray each other. Otherwise, we would be bitten by the Gu worm and be struck by lightning. At that time, I was really happy. I even thought I was the happiest woman in the world. Chapter 474. However, the Lantern Festival in the 7th year of our marriage. I hid outside the door and saw you having sex with other women. You praised them for being gentle and beautiful while cursing me viciously. I've never done anything wrong to you. Why are you doing this to me? Her eyes gradually turned cold and her voice became louder and louder. Her voice was as shrill as a devil's roar. I wanted to kill you then, but I knew that the time wasn't right. I was no match for you. You thought that I wouldn't dare to do anything to you. You went from bad to worse, bringing a woman back every few days. I can't kill you, but can I kill them? I killed one after another until my hands were weak. Now you want to marry Xue Ziqing. What's the difference between her and our daughter? So, the best way is to kill you and end all troubles once and for all. You make me sound so terrible. Who do you think you are? Why don't you say so? Old Gu King's face was full of resentment. 2nd senior brother, 5th junior brother, 7th junior brother, 3rd elder. Which man in this sect hasn't slept with you? And died after you sucked all their vital yang? You slut, you're a promiscuous woman. You're a piece of trash. Shut up. Shut up. Old Gu's ugly face trembled violently and twisted ferociously. She said hoarsely, Lu, it was you who wanted me to absorb their yang energy and then convert it into mysterious yin energy for you to absorb. You said that as long as you improved your cultivation, you wouldn't mind. Have you forgotten? If it weren't for me, would you have the cultivation of God's phenomenal success? But I didn't say I wanted you to absorb masters. That's my uncle. Also, did you tell me about this? You've fallen in love with him, haven't you? You didn't even want to absorb his vital yang. He died of his own illness. Old Gu King roared angrily. Lu, go to hell. Everyone, let's do it together. Old Gu King's face was contorted. She was as vicious as a ghost. Suddenly, she made a hand gesture and chanted. At the same time, Xue Ziqing, Su Shiji, and Kong Li also made hand gestures and activated their gu worms. I was the one who taught you the gu poison. Do you think you can kill me? The old Gu King's body shook. He pinched his fingers, and the 4 gu worms shot out from his chest along with a few blood arrows. Without saying a word, he grabbed the 4 gu worms in his hand and crushed them. His hand was filled with dirty juice. It hurt so much. Kong Li suddenly screamed and fell to the ground on his back. He struggled and writhed with all his might as blood spurted out from his 7 apertures. Under his skin, there seemed to be long snakes drilling in and out, clearly suffering from the backlash of the gu worm. However, Old Gu Queen and Su Shiji only spat out blood. Their injuries were obviously lighter. As for Xue Ziqing, her expression did not change, as if she had never released a gu worm. Jiang Tian's divine sense had long observed that Kong Li's gu insect was a life gu insect raised by his life blood essence. Its attack power was strong, but its backlash was also the most serious. Meanwhile, Old Gu Queen and Su Shiji did not release life gu insects, they were only ordinary gu insects. Even the blood they spat out was fake, forced out by their cultivation methods. As for Xue Ziqing's gu insect, it was a type of gu insect that could increase the Old Gu King's cultivation. Xue Ziqing, you actually betrayed us? We had an agreement earlier. Kong Li pointed at Xue Ziqing and shouted furiously. Xue Ziqing had no intention of refuting. She said plainly, Kong Li, if I told you that Old Gu Queen and Su Shiji also did not use life gu insects, and that the blood they spat out was fake, would you be even angrier? Kong Li looked at Old Gu Queen and Su Shiji weakly. The two of them had no intention of explaining. He said hatefully, you are too despicable. I'm so angry. After saying that, he fainted from anger. Kong Li is an idiot, he likes to charge at the front and be cannon fodder, hee. Old Gu King shook his head mockingly. He is nothing but a clown. Xue Ziqing walked behind Old Gu King and sneered. He wants to get the golden mother gu, he should know that he is not strong enough to do it. Indeed, without Master, how could the Gu God sect rise again? Master, Old Gu Queen is too despicable, we should just kill her. Su Shiji sneered and walked behind the Old Gu King. Old Gu Queen was taken aback by the development, and then she said angrily, you two are like wolves in sheep's clothing. Su Shiji, you have absorbed my dark yin qi and helped you reach the peak of transcendent state. Have you forgotten my kindness? Kindness? You are so disgusting. Every time we make love, I feel like throwing up. If it wasn't for Master telling me to calm your emotions and give you something to rely on, I wouldn't have made love to you. Su Shiji said disdainfully. You? Shock appeared on Old Gu's face again, as if he couldn't believe it. You old hag, do you understand now? I am the one who arranged all of this. The Old Gu King laughed proudly. Your rotten face is scarier than a ghost. Even if you can help people improve, no one will want you. Not even a dog would like you. Su Shiji must have been wronged. He must be disgusted. Fine, you are smart this time. I admit defeat. Old Gu Queen took a step back and said coldly, but I want a golden mother gu egg. Give it to me and I will leave. You want to leave? In your dreams. Today I will kill you. Old Gu King said viciously. Kill me? Old Gu Queen shouted. Have you forgotten that we planted the husband and wife heart goo together? If you don't give me the golden mother goo, I will kill you first. Old Goo Queen said as she took out a goo worm from her body and held it in her hand. Old hag, you are crazy. Old Goo King's body trembled violently as he said in a shaky voice, You want to crush the husband and wife heart goo? Aren't you afraid that you will die? Hee hee, I have forced you to use the husband and wife heart goo ever since I killed your first woman. Old Goo Queen said viciously, Fine, I don't want the golden mother goo anymore. I don't want the egg either. Go to hell. She crushed the husband and wife heart goo in her hand. A shrill scream was heard. However, it was not Old Goo King but Old Goo Queen who was screaming. What was going on? Everyone was stunned. Even Old Goo Queen was dumbfounded. She exclaimed in disbelief, Why are you fine? Why is my body? When did you plant it? Do you know that I have forced the husband and wife heart goo out? I have forced it out since you killed my first woman. Old Goo King said proudly, and the goo worm I planted in you back then was not a simple husband and wife heart goo. It is called heartbreak birth goo. What? Heartbreak birth goo? Once it is forced out of the body, it will give birth to hundreds of eggs. Old Goo Queen trembled violently. No one knew if it was out of fear or anger. She took out a handful of smelly pills from her pocket and stuffed them all into her mouth. As she forced the eggs out one by one, she roared angrily, Old Goo King, you are indeed scheming. I admit defeat today. I just want to know, when did you know I was going to kill you? When did Su Shiji and Xue Ziqing betray me? You can go to hell with your questions. Old Goo King snorted and waved his right hand. The god's sacrificing sword shot out and slashed at Old Goo Queen. Unexpectedly, the god's sacrificing sword suddenly made a circle in the air and beheaded Su Shiji instantly. Everyone was stunned again. Was Su Shiji not Old Goo King's spy? Why did Old Goo King attack him? Everyone took a closer look and saw Su Shiji standing there with a small crossbow in his hand that came out of nowhere. Old Goo King was holding a short black arrow between his fingers. Su Shiji has always been one of your men, right? He actually wanted to plot against me at the most critical moment. Old Goo King sneered and threw the short arrow on the ground, saying disdainfully. Xue Ziqing's expression changed slightly and there seemed to be tears in her eyes. Old Goo Queen sneered and said with blood spurting out of her nose and mouth, He is not one of my men. You killed the wrong person. He wanted to kill me just now. You have already agreed to let him take over the position of sect leader. Why did he betray you? Did he really fall in love with you? Or is it because... Old Goo King laughed and there was a hint of mockery in his eyes. Then he suddenly turned around. Boom! He slapped Xue Ziqing's chest. Xue Ziqing had only pulled out her sword halfway when her red Cheongsam wedding dress and soft chest were smashed into pieces. She was sent flying. Because, Old Goo King laughed and said word by word, although Su Shiji did not fall in love with you, he loved Xue Ziqing deeply. What a good-for-nothing. He did not know that women are only sex slaves. He repaid kindness with ingratitude and plotted against me. How did you know? A trace of despair appeared on Old Goo's face. He suddenly sighed and sat on the ground. She knew that the plan that she had plotted for several years and the painstaking setup and disguise had completely failed. How did you know? Isn't it simple? Old Goo King laughed loudly. 3 years ago, I started absorbing Xue Ziqing's dark Yin aura. However, your dark Yin aura has always been in her body. Where did this aura come from? You passed it to Su Shiji and he passed it to Xue Ziqing. He shook his head sadly and sighed. However, I did not expect that even after I had decided to pass the golden goo worm and the position of sect leader to him, he would still stand on your side so firmly. That's good, that's good. Kill them all. I did not expect you to be so sensitive to auras. Lu, I have underestimated you. Old Goo Queen had already given up on forcing the goo worm out. Her mouth was stained with blood as she sighed helplessly. Then she looked at Jiang Tian and said, I am sorry that I could not help you kill him. Please give me a quick death. Ha, do you think that he can kill me? Old Goo King snorted disdainfully and said proudly, I am the final winner. In the future, I will make thousands of sects submit to me and increase my lifespan by 60 years. Then I will marry 8 or 10 concubines. How wonderful! I will anger you to death, old witch. Ha! He laughed maniacally and admired old Gu Queen's despairing eyes. As for Jiang Tian, he could not even be bothered to look at him. Half-step to immortal state? He could kill him in minutes. However, his laughter stopped abruptly. The smile froze on his face and a trace of pain appeared. Chapter 475. Old Gu King looked down blankly and saw the tip of a sword shining with cold light in front of his chest. Blood was gushing out of the wound. It's you. The old Gu King spat out blood and turned his head with difficulty. He saw Kong Li, who had been in a coma for a long time, standing behind him. Kong Li was holding the hilt of his sword tightly with a smug grin on his face. Kong Li raised his leg and kicked the old Gu King away, causing him to fall beside the old Gu Queen. He shook off the blood on the tip of his sword and smiled weakly. Master, I'm sorry. It seems that I'm the final winner. The old Gu King trembled violently. He was shocked, angry, and scared. He raised his hand and pointed at Kong Li. You can fake your natal Gu. How is it possible? How can my intuition be wrong? Master, you've wronged me. That is indeed my natal Gu. Kong Li cupped his fists and smiled proudly. It's just that I've figured out how to use the severing separation Gu to cut off the connection between my natal Gu and the Gu in my body. It's all thanks to your teachings. Good, very good. I didn't expect you, Kong Li, to be so talented. I actually underestimated you. Moreover, you must have been hiding your cultivation. That sword of yours just now even destroyed half of my divine soul. The old Gu King trembled violently. Nobody knew if it was because he was about to die or because he was angry. Master, you're really observant. However, it seems that you found out a little late. Kong Li smiled proudly. Good. Kong Li, kill him and then kill me. I don't want to live anymore. It's not worth it to live in this world. The old Gu Queen laughed. Kill me to... It's boring. I've lived long enough. Xue Ziqing also spat out blood. She raised her head with difficulty and smiled bitterly. It's not a problem to kill the old Gu King. Kong Li touched his chin and smiled. However, the old Gu Queen and junior sister Ziqing still have cultivation. I have to squeeze you dry. At this moment, the old Gu King looked at Jiang Tian and said, Master Kong, help me kill him. Your woman, Huang Linger, was given to Bai Diqing by the Bai family in Yanjing. Bai Jingting knows where he is. Also, please give me a quick death. Help you kill me? Can he do it? Kong Li smiled proudly. His violent aura rose steadily as he said coldly, I have planted the blood-devouring divine venomous insect in all of your bodies. Originally, I wanted to absorb it slowly and let you live for 8 to 10 years after you die of old age. I didn't expect that you would kill each other so soon. Then I can only absorb it completely. In these 10 minutes, my cultivation base has already reached half a step into the divine realm. So it's the Bai family in Beijing. Jiang Tian did not bother to look at him. He took out the thunder meteorite wood and threw a thunderball at the old Gu King. The thunderball enveloped the old Gu King, and his entire body turned into charcoal. He died almost instantly. Ah, good, very good. This is retribution. We swore that whoever betrayed each other would be punished by the 5 thunders. Now, you are really killed by the 5 thunders. 5 thunders. That's great. Seeing this, the old Gu Queen laughed wildly. But her laughter suddenly stopped. She had lost too much blood and died. Dead? Are they all dead? At this time, Xue Ziqing looked up with difficulty and murmured with blood spurting out of her mouth, the old Gu Queen is also dead. I originally wanted to kill the old Gu King and then the old Gu Queen. I didn't expect that she would also die. She suddenly pulled out a sharp knife from her waist and stabbed it into her own heart. She seemed to feel no pain at all, and a relieved smile appeared on her face. However, no matter who died in my hands, I have avenged my sister. Sister, you have suffered so much. You were taken away by the old Gu King and forced to marry him. You were humiliated, and the old Gu Queen set you up? Now, your sister is here to accompany you." After saying this, her head tilted and she died. Committed suicide? A neurotic smile appeared on Kong Li's face. He shook his head and sighed, "What a pity. Actually, you are still of some use. I didn't expect that you would take things so hard. But it doesn't matter. This person's cultivation seems to be very powerful." He stared fixedly at Jiang Tian, as if he was a top-grade glutton staring at a plate of delicious food, and his saliva was about to drip down. "Is this the blood-devouring vermin you mentioned?" Jiang Tian took out a worm that looked like a red silk ribbon and asked with a half-smile. Who are you? How did you resist the blood-devouring vermin?" Kong Li asked subconsciously. His face was filled with unprecedented fear. He had just released more than 10 blood-devouring vermin. In addition to the old Gu King and his wife, Xue Ziqing and Su Shiji, there was also Jiang Tian and a few other masters of his sect. He thought that in terms of the level of venomous insects, no one in Huaxia could surpass him. Even the old Gu King was not as good as him. But he didn't expect Jiang Tian to be able to dodge it. "I've already told you. My name is Kong Teichu." Jiang Tian didn't waste any time. A black light burst out from his finger. Kong Li felt his vision blur and a sharp pain in his chest. Looking down, he saw a bloody hole in his chest. And in Jiang Tian's hand was a black sword dripping with blood. Too scary. "I didn't expect to be killed immediately after breaking through." A self-mocking smile appeared on Kong Li's face. His knees gave way and he fell to the ground. Even after death, his eyes were still wide open in shock and disbelief. He didn't know that Jiang Tian was now at the 6th level of qi refinement. His cultivation was not what it used to be. He could kill an immortal realm culmination expert in 3 moves. Moreover, Kong Li had just broken through to the half-step immortal realm and his cultivation was still unstable. It was too easy for Jiang Tian to deal with him. A black flying sword easily destroyed his body and soul. "Master Kong, don't kill us. I'm Bai Jingting. I know where White Emperor City is. I'll lead the way for you. I'm still useful. Don't kill me." Bai Jingting and the others were stunned. They knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. They were so scared that they wet their pants. Although they were all rich and powerful in Yanjin and had some martial arts cultivation, and Bai Jingting was a transcendent master, they were nothing compared to Jiang Tian's terrifying means of killing people. "Master Kong, we've cleaned up the Gu God sect. We killed more than 100 people, but 30 people escaped down the mountain." When the blood-stained Huaqing Tian, Wei Feilong, and the other members of the Heaven Alliance, the 2 sects in the southwest, and the 3 families charged into the main hall, they saw this scene and could not help but be stunned. "They're all dead. Is this Bai Jingting, the young master of the Bai family in Yanjin?" The main hall was a mess of flesh and blood. Corpses were piled up and the pungent smell of blood filled the air. It was like hell. The god of Gu, the Gu Grandma, the Gu god, the Gu Grandma, and the elite disciples were all killed by Jiang Tian. Among them were dozens of transcendent state warriors, and some were even half a step away from the immortal state. Only Jiang Tian stood proudly in the pool of blood. Bai Jingting and the other young masters of Yanjin knelt on the ground and trembled as if they were believers in fear. Everyone's hearts were palpitating, and they were extremely shocked. Grandmaster Jiang was too heaven-defying. In less than half an hour he had killed the old Gu King and many others. In fact, they had underestimated Jiang Tian's strength. If it weren't for the fact that old Gu King and the others were unwilling to reveal Wang Linger's whereabouts and insisted on killing each other, Jiang Tian might have ended the battle in 10 minutes. "Bai Jingting, I'll know where White Emperor City is after I kill you." Jiang Tian looked at Bai Jingting indifferently. This person was also involved in the kidnapping of Wang Linger. He couldn't let him live. What? Bai Jingting was shocked. He didn't even turn around. He kicked the ground and shot out of the door like a bolt of lightning. However, Jiang Tian's immortal will was faster. The golden divine general cracked. It jumped out of the golden lake between Jiang Tian's eyebrows. Its big hand reached out and its sharp fingers pierced into Bai Jingting's skull. Bai Jingting's body twitched violently and his eyes turned white. Blood spurted out of his 7 orifices and he died quickly. The Golden Divine General took Bai Jingting's divine soul memory and turned it into soul energy and went into Jiang Tian's immortal will golden lake. Bai Jingting fell to the ground like a dead chicken and didn't move. Everyone looked at each other and saw the shock on each other's faces. They all had the same thought. The kidnapping of Wang Lin involved the Bai family of Yanjin. This is troublesome. Wuxia Tian stepped forward and bowed. What should we do next? Master Kong, please instruct us. Go to Yanjin and find the master of the Bai family. If Wang Lin is hurt in the slightest, I'll destroy the Bai family. Jiang Tian said lightly. When he thought of that girl who was as pure as ice and snow and was deeply in love with him, his anger rose uncontrollably, and his murderous intent erupted. Master Kong, that's the Bai family. Hua Wanfang's body trembled slightly. She was shocked and stopped talking. This is a grudge between me and the Bai family. If you're willing to help me, that's a favor. If you're not willing, I won't blame you in the slightest. Jiang Tian calmly glanced at the crowd. Members of the Heavenly Alliance swear to follow Master Kong to death. We'll go through fire and water without hesitation. Wuxia Tian, Wei Feilong, Zhao Yuankuan, and the 3 giants of the Heavenly Alliance bowed and saluted together. The Bai family was the head of the 7 major families in Yanjin and was a family of martial arts judges. They were powerful and terrifying. In the past, they didn't even dare to say anything disrespectful to the Bai family, let alone attack them. They would tremble in fear when they saw them, as if they were subordinates meeting a leader. They didn't have the strength or courage to do so. However, since they'd followed Jiang Tian, they'd personally witnessed Jiang Tian's triumphant progress and his undefeated streak. So, they had an indescribable confidence in Jiang Tian. This battle might change the structure of the entire martial arts world in Huaxia and even give birth to a new judge. If Grandmaster Jiang became the arbiter of Huaxia's martial arts, then they would also rise to the heavens and become famous. Chapter 476. Wu Yingxiong hesitated for a while. Then he stepped forward and said, "This old man has admired Master Kong for a long time. I have always wanted to join the Heaven Alliance and fight alongside Master Kong. However, I have never had the chance to do so. How could I miss such a good opportunity today? I only hope that Master Kong won't reject me." Wu Yingxiong had witnessed Jiang Tian's strength today. Even the Gu God sect had been destroyed by Jiang Tian. This kind of shocking talent, this kind of terrifying strength, perhaps even the Bai family is a little lacking in maturity. "Thank you, Mr. Wu." Jiang Tian nodded. Hua Wanfang stepped forward and said with a smile, "Master Kong, the sect of Shadow Blight has been having a hard time recently. Many of our elites have been killed. We can't take it anymore. So, Master Kong, you can leave." Jiang Tian didn't waste his breath and said with a wave of his hand, "Mom." Soundless Shadow called out unwillingly, very unwillingly. "Master Kong, I will take my leave now. I hope that Master Kong will be able to save Miss Huang." Hua Wanfang glared at Silent Shadow, scaring him so much that he didn't dare to keep quiet. He bowed deeply once more and led his disciples away in a hurry. "Master Kong, we will take our leave as well. We hope that Master Kong will be able to achieve great success." Seeing this, Yun Yen, the Grand Magus God, and Shen Xinyu took a step forward, cupped their fists, and smiled apologetically. They were afraid of Jiang Tian, but they were also afraid of the Bai family. Therefore, they did not want to get involved in this matter. However, they were afraid that Jiang Tian would kill them. Therefore, they did not dare to say anything. Seeing that Jiang Tian did not blame Hua Wanfang, they dared to say something. Jiang Tian could not be bothered with them and just said coolly, "There are still over 30 people who escaped? That won't do. I said that I will wipe out the entire Gu God sect. I will kill every single one of them. Xiaohei, go kill them." Jiang Tian sneered, and a black light burst out from his palm. Blood-curdling screams resounded continuously within a few kilometers of the sword insertion peak. A black light, like a black star chasing after the moon, danced in the air above Decapitation Valley and the surrounding mountain forests. Every time the black light swept past, a person would be pierced through or beheaded. When the disciples of the Gu God sect saw Jiang Tian and the people from the Sky Alliance charging in, they quickly ran away. Taking advantage of their familiarity with the terrain, some of them went into hiding, and some of them even ran 20 kilometers away. However, all of this was useless against Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian's divine sense spread out for 30 miles, covering every mountain, every rock, every blade of grass, and every tree. None of the Gu God sect disciples could hide from him. The sword light traveled for 40 miles, and one sword light chilled 19 provinces. 30 kilometers away, the disciple who ran the furthest screamed and fell to the ground. All the disciples of the Gu God sect who ran away were killed. Jiang Tian was not polite to the disciples of the Gu God sect, and there was no need for him to show mercy. These people treated human lives like grass and used human beings as cultivation vessels. Everyone's hands were stained with blood, and they deserved to die. Yanjing, Fragrant Mountain, by families Yuhua Villa. Bai Dicheng is cultivating there. At the same time, Jiang Tian had finished talking to the people from the Sky Alliance. He grabbed Bai Jingting's body, stepped on the flying sword, and rushed to Yanjing. West of Yanjing, Fragrant Mountain, 100,000 red maple trees, and Bailey Hongzhuang. Below Xianglu Peak, by families Yuhua Villa was a large area that covered the Shuangqing Villa. This place used to be the palace of the leaders. Nearby were Xianglu Peak, Jisong Garden, Jiangxincai, and many other places of interest. The scenery was beautiful, and it was a unique place. In this world's famous scenic spot, in this royal garden with a long history and deep heritage, they were the best. To enclose such a large area as their private residence, money was not enough. What they needed was monstrous authority. It could be seen that the Bai family's influence in the secular world was like clouds and rain. In the Shuangqing Villa, there were 2 clear springs that flowed all year round. One flowed to Zilahao, and the other flowed to Jingsui Lake. This was the reason why the name Shuangqing was called. At this moment, the bright moon sprinkled down rays of clear splendor, shining on the frost-covered ginkgo trees. Clear spring water gurgled as it flowed over the clean stones. Dense spiritual energy floated like white fog, and the pebbles in the water emitted thousands of auspicious colors and tens of thousands of rays of light. If there were cultivators from the outer space here, they would also be amazed. The Shuangqing Villa was an extremely rare dragon marrow spirit vein, which was very beneficial to the cultivators in the late stage of qi refining. And the amount of spiritual qi was very considerable. In the octagonal pavilion next to the 2 clear springs, an old woman in a black robe with knife scars on her face was sitting cross-legged and meditating. She took a breath like a whale sucking in water, swallowing countless spiritual qi and rays of light into her stomach. When she exhaled, it was like a white ribbon across the sky. It was dozens of feet long, and the void between heaven and earth shook as if it could stir up the wind and thunder. Suddenly, she opened her eyes. 2 rays of light burst out like lightning, shooting out 3 feet long electric light. The electric light made a strange cracking sound in the void and twisted uneasily. Who is it? How dare you kill my great-great-grandson? I will cut you into pieces. The old woman roared angrily like a demon. Her voice was full of coldness and sternness, shaking the whole villa. Old Madame Hong Mei spoke? Is she going to break out of seclusion? That's terrible. I heard that our ancestor has already reached the immortal state perfection. If she breaks out of seclusion this time, I'm afraid she will be at the peak of the immortal state. In an instant, the entire Yuhua villa was alarmed. Countless overlords trembled and kowtowed in the direction of the Shuangqing villa. Something happened to Jingting in the southwest. Go and find out who did it. I'm going to cut him into 1,000 pieces. I'm going to pull out his tendons, skin him, and refine his soul. I'm going to let him fall into hell forever and never be reincarnated. Old Madame Hong Mei roared angrily and her voice shook a few miles. Ancestor. Many disciples, guardians, and overlords of the Bai family knelt down and couldn't help trembling. The Bai family of Yanjin was the oldest and most powerful martial arts family in Wuxia. For thousands of years in Wuxia, the Bai family had produced many overlords and was always an indelible force. The wheels of history rolled over, but the Bai family still stood strong. 300 years ago, the first family master of the Bai family once dominated Wuxia and thousands of sects submitted to him. At that time, even the Iron Hat King and the members of the royal family of the Qing dynasty had to respectfully address the family master as Old Immortal Bai. During the Republic of China, this old woman named Hao Hongmei and her husband, Bai Tianlei, were on par with Yi Tianren and defeated the Nine-Layered Pagoda, the Hong sect, the Qing Gang, and other organizations. They once drank and chatted with Mr. Zhongshan and were rewarded by the great ancestor. They could talk to the sect masters of ancient Kunlun, Mount Shu sword sect, and Diansong. Later, Yi Tianren formed the Yellow Flame Iron Brigade, and old Madame Hong Mei and the other 6 families formed the martial arts ruling family. They whipped the martial arts world, maintained order, and commanded the heroes in the world. After Yi Tianren went into seclusion, old Madame Hong Mei could be said to be the most powerful person in the martial arts world in Wuxia. Even overlords like Yi Zhantian and Huqing Tian had to avoid her and call her junior. With her in charge, the Bai family had been conquering cities and territories in the mortal world for the past 100 years. They supported their agents in the military, politics, and business. They were known as the 3 great men in one family, 5 generals in 4 generations. The Bai family was as rich as a country and had great influence in the mortal world. Recently, they had started to show their strength in the martial arts world. They formed the Condor Group in White Emperor City and rose to power. They wanted to surpass the Huaxia Long formation. Other than the old family master, Bai Tianlei and Hao Hongmei, the Bai family has a total of 9 masters. They are all overlords from Mount Shu and Mount Shu. They have thousands of servants and guards. Other than that, they also have great influence in Yanjin. In China, in Yanjin, be it the feudal officials, the generals in the military, or the cultural celebrities, they are all proud to be on good terms with the Bai family. The Chen family, the Qin family, the Fu family, and the Lin family of Yanjin are allies with the Bai family. Even Zhang Zhonghua, the 3rd most powerful man in Yanjin, is a henchman of the Bai family. Although Bai Diqing had reached the peak of the transcendent state in just a few years, he wasn't as powerful as people claimed. Instead, he used the Gu God Sect's Gu worms to increase his power. Jiang Tian extracted all the information from Bai Jingting's mind. He flew on the flying sword and talked to the members of the Heavenly Alliance through immortal will. No wonder the Bai family is so powerful. They have the support of the Mount Shu sword sect. The old family master even served as the guardian and elder of Mount Shu for a few years. Hearing this, everyone's heart skipped a beat. In their hearts, the Shushan sword cultivators were like gods in the heavens. They were too powerful. They were scared and excited. However, they were more excited than scared. If they won this battle, Kong Teichu would be the most powerful man in the mortal world of Huaxia. All that was left was to defeat the hidden sections. Speed is the most important thing in war. I will attack the Bai family first and you guys will follow me. I will kill everyone in the Bai family. Jiang Tian stepped on the flying sword and sped up again. There was a surge of fighting spirit in his eyes. Which of the 7 major families in Yanjin doesn't have a powerful backer? The Yi family's backer is the Kunlun sect. Shen Mange contacted Jiang Tian after receiving the news. She sighed with a complicated expression. Although the Shen family was a big family, they were only influential in the mortal world. They mainly focused on politics and business. Her family had spent a lot of money to send her to the Shenong school. It could be said that the Shen family could not be compared to the 7 great families at all. The reason was simple. The Shenong school was nothing compared to the 1,000-year-old Kunlun and Amei families. If the backer was not good, the family's strength was not good. However, Master Kong, Yanjin is the political center. If you rush in like this, there are many helicopters that don't have the traffic permit. They may be intercepted by the military fighter jets. Shen Mange reminded him softly, so, You'd better call Elder Chow to avoid misunderstanding. I will also talk to my brother and see if he can persuade the chief to make things easier. We don't ask the military to help us suppress the Bai family, but at least we don't want to be misunderstood and suppressed by the military. Chapter 477. Okay, I'll tell you. Jiang Tian's current stealth technique could hide from human eyes, but it might not be able to hide from radar. Shen Mengji's reminder was not without reason. He immediately hung up the phone and contacted Chao Shixiang. After hearing Jiang Tian's words, Chao Shixiang was so shocked that he jumped up from the chair. Jiang Tian, are you crazy? That's the Bai family. If you fight with them, the world will be turned upside down. And this is Yanjin. What's so great about the Bai family? If they can kidnap my woman, why can't I go? Jiang Tian sneered. His eyes were full of murderous intent. Don't act rashly. Wait for me to mediate. I will give you an explanation. Don't do anything. Chao Shixiang hurriedly said, First, they have a lot of power in the secular world. Their disciples are all over the world. Second, the Bai family is backed by the sword cultivators of Mount Shu, the Amei sect. They are too powerful. The Amei sect alone can suppress the Huaxia Long formation, not to mention the Bai family and the sword cultivators of Mount Shu. So what if he is an immortal? If he kidnaps my woman, he should be prepared to be killed. Jiang Tian snorted and hung up the phone. He suddenly sped up and flew all the way to the north. It was the western suburbs of Yanjin, where the Bai family's Yuhua villa was located. Chao Shixiang said, hello, into the phone a few times, but there was no response. He hurriedly made a call to Xiao Xin, the personal secretary of the chief's special envoy. Secretary Shen, is the chief resting? I have something important to talk to the chief about. It's urgent. After the phone was connected, Chao Shixiang wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said, Elder Chao, you want to talk to me about Master Kong, right? Special Envoy Shen chuckled. That's right. Xiao Shen, you can still laugh at this time. Kong Teichu is targeting the Bai family. This is a battle between immortal state warriors. Chao Shixiang was so anxious that he stomped his feet. Xiao Shen, you are too careless. I've already reported this matter to the chief, and the chief has also given me verbal instructions. Please wait for me at your residence. I'm already on my way here by helicopter. I'll be there in 10 minutes. But you have to inform the military not to intercept Kong Teichu. Don't stop Kong Teichu. The great chief means... Chao Shixiang was stunned on the spot. He was completely confused. At 2 o'clock in the morning, under the guidance of Chao Jianjia, Special Envoy Shen, who was dressed in a Chinese tunic suit and had an elegant temperament, pushed the door open and entered. What does the great chief mean? Special Envoy Shen had just sat down when Chao Shixiang asked impatiently. The chief said that the national level is the national level, and the martial arts level is the martial arts level. A country has its laws, but the martial arts world also has its rules. Since Kong Teichu and the Bai family are both martial artists, let's do it according to the rules of the martial arts world. Special Envoy Shen said with a smile. So, the great chief means to let them do as they please and not help either side? But the Bai family has a great influence in the secular world. Chao Shixiang said in surprise. It's not a good thing to have too much influence. Now the 7 families are like independent kingdoms. Special Envoy Shen smiled calmly and said, in terms of overall interests, the destruction of the Bai family will do more good than harm to the country and the people. Chao Shixiang nodded and said with deep emotion, that's right. The Bai family is the adjudicator family. It's just that they are on the same side and attack those who are not. Over the years, they have caused a lot of bloodshed and destroyed many martial arts families. In fact, they just want to kill people and steal their treasures. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. In terms of the rules of the martial arts world, the 7 adjudicator families once jointly issued a martial arts family convention. Martial arts masters can kill each other, but they can't disturb the order of the secular world. Special Envoy Shen picked up the teacup, sipped the tea, and said with a slightly mocking smile, "But the Bai family? Let's take the matter of their alliance with the Gu God sect as an example. The Gu God sect killed hundreds of civilians. This is a serious disturbance of the secular order and a serious violation of the convention. They are slapping themselves in the face and publicly tearing up the contract they made. To be honest, the chief doesn't care much about the disputes in the martial arts world, but the Bai family has touched the bottom line of the country. You know, the chief cares about the well-being of the people." Finally, a trace of coldness flashed in his eyes, and he said earnestly, "Remember, there is no place outside the law in Wuxia. Everything must be under the control of the central government. Now, the Bai family is out of control. What you need to do is to cordon off the area within 5 kilometers of Yuhua Villa and don't let anyone in. Alas, the evils we bring on ourselves are the hardest to bear. The Bai family has violated the law for so many years. I didn't expect that they would provoke Kong Teichu. Finally, they are facing a disaster." After sending special envoy Shen out and watching him board the helicopter, Elder Chow looked up and sighed with a complicated expression. At 2:30 in the morning, the glaring lampposts shone through the darkness. Yuhua Mountain Villa suddenly became lively. Luxury cars drove in one after another, and there were even 2 helicopters that circled around and landed on the tarmac. The news of Bai Jingting's death spread across the 7 major families in Yanjin in less than 10 minutes. Everyone was shocked by the news. More importantly, the disciples of the other major families who came with Bai Jingting to the Gu God sect's birthday party could not be contacted. No one knew if they were dead or alive. This kind of thing had not happened for many years. It could be said that the members of the 7 major families could be killed if they were seen on the street, not to mention being killed. This was not only an affront to the Bai family, but also to the 7 major families of the Adjudicator family. At the same time, the meeting hall of Yuhua Villa was ablaze with lights. Numerous formidable figures appeared successively. Some were lofty and heavy like mountains, some revealed their sharpness like unsheathed treasured swords, some possessed overbearing and barbaric auras like dragons and tigers, some were otherworldly like immortals that had descended to the mortal world, some had dark and gloomy auras that were unfathomable like an abyss. If anyone who had made a name for themselves in Beijing saw this, they would definitely be shocked and dumbfounded. Among the 7 major families of Yanjin, the Qin family, the Chen family, the Fu family, and the Lin family, who were close to the Bai family, all came to Yuhua Villa to attend the meeting. The family lord of the Bai family, Bai Tianlei, was over 100 years old. He looked old and frail, but he was still as stern as a tiger. He furrowed his brows and said, "According to Jingting's remnant soul, more than half of the Gu God sect's elites have been killed. That person is very powerful, and he will attack Yanjin soon." Qin Zhong, the family lord of the Qin family, said with disdain, "Attack Yanjin? Are you kidding? This is an important place in Yanjin. Do you think he is going to start a massacre here?" "That's right. I have already sent a few police units to guard the area around the Bai family. If anyone gets close, they will be killed." A man wearing a jacket and dark circles under his eyes said flatteringly, looking as if he had been hollowed out by wine, women, and wealth. If Jiang Tian was there, he would have recognized this man. He was Jiang Tian's uncle, Zhang Zhonghua. He was the 3rd most powerful man in Yanjin and was in charge of public security. In ancient times, he was the general of the 9 gates and had great influence in the police force. As for Zhang Zhonghua, who Jiang Tian looked up to in his previous life, in the Bai clan's camp, he was just a minor character who did not stand out and was only fit to be a bystander. The Gu God sect is very powerful, but they were still annihilated by this man. I don't think the police can do anything about it. Qin Qingshan, the family lord of the Qin family, furrowed his brows and said, "Besides, why did he kill Bai Jingting? Does the family lord of the Bai family know his identity? We have to find out who he is." Fu Hongxue, the family lord of the Fu family, was as tall as a mountain. He slammed the table and shouted angrily, "I don't care who he is. If he dares to touch the Bai family, he must die. We must let him know that the martial arts adjudicator family is not to be trifled with. He was at the peak of transcendent state, but his words and actions were overbearing. No wonder he was the family lord of the adjudicator family in Wuxia. Indeed, the Lin family's patriarch, Lin Fengmian, had a very dark aura. It was obvious that his concealment technique was superb as he nodded. Back then, the old patriarch of the Bai family was careless and allowed the Yi family to take control of the dragon group, resulting in the loss of authority. We had no choice but to set up the adjudicator alliance, but we didn't have the highest official endorsement after all. Lin Fengmian's voice was faint, but it echoed around the conference room. Over the years, we have been working with the hidden sects to cultivate more and more powerful fighters. Di Qing has also done well. The Condor team is showing signs of replacing the Long formation. Under such circumstances, we can't back down. Instead, we have to take revenge 10 times, 100 times over. We have to wipe out the murderer's entire family and leave no one alive to serve as a warning to others. Otherwise, where will our prestige be and how will we convince the masses? Uncle Lin, you flatter me. My insignificant achievements can't be separated from everyone's support. I'm just a representative. In his seat, Bai Diqing's temperament was as graceful as an immortal's. Then he frowned and said, "However, Uncle Lin and Family Lord Fu are right. The Condor team has enough talent, the support of the sects, and even the battle record. It will only take us 1 or 2 years to replace the Huaxia Long formation." Bai Jingting was killed at such a critical moment. This is a very bad sign. If we don't kill the murderer, will those proud and arrogant families be willing to submit to us? A trace of sharpness flashed through his eyes. He had the bearing of an ambitious and ruthless person who could swallow the whole world. Especially Huo Qingtian, Wei Feilong, Zhao Yuankuan, and the others. They originally belonged to Kong Teichu's Heaven Alliance. I've sent people to persuade them several times, but they didn't give me any concrete information. If they can't win us over, we won't be able to win over the other families. I'm afraid that the Condor team replacing the Long formation is just empty talk. His position was second only to the family lords, and he could suppress many important people and experts. His position was very high. At that moment, Zhang Zhongguo's phone suddenly rang. Sorry. I forgot to turn off the ringtone. Everyone, continue with the meeting. I'll go outside to answer it. Outside. Seeing Bai Diqing's displeased gaze, Zhang Zhongguo felt as if he was being stared at by a devil. He was so scared that his whole body trembled. He quickly apologized, pressed the answer button, and went outside to answer the call. Chapter 478. The police are useless in this situation, but this Zhang Zhongguo got the news from somewhere and brought hundreds of police officers here. He's going to stick to us. Bai Diqing glanced at his back and did not hide his disdain. He said coldly, "Other than causing trouble, you're useless." The Zhang family of Beijing was just an ordinary family. In the eyes of the average person, they were a giant that should not be messed with. However, in Bai Diqing's eyes, they were just a few cats and dogs that were not worth mentioning. If it were not for his grandfather's request to be kind to others before he replaced the Long formation, he would not have bothered with him at all. It's normal. Although Zhang Zhongguo's ability is average, he's very perceptive. Don't send him too far. Bai Diqing's father, Bai Jincheng, reminded him gently, "Since ancient times, Lord Meng Chong was willing to do anything for me, you must have the magnanimity to accept him. At the very least, he's a qualified guard dog." Oh no. While they were talking, Zhang Zhongguo hurriedly ran in. He even lost one of his shoes and almost fell down. "Why are you so flustered?" Bai Diqing frowned and reprimanded him. Zhang Zhongguo gulped and suppressed the panic in his heart. He said in a trembling voice, "The Weirong district of Beijing sent a large number of soldiers here. There are a few thousand of them. They set up sentry posts and barricades 5 kilometers around Yuhua Villa. I don't know what they're doing. They won't tell me even if I ask. Why are they moving?" Everyone looked at each other and saw the shock on each other's faces. This troop was known as the Imperial Army. It was made up of the elites in the army. They would not move easily, but once they did, it would mean a lot. Bai Tianlei took out his phone and dialed Qiao Shixiang's number. After a series of questions, he hung up. He glanced at everyone and sneered. He heard that the Bai family has a martial arts dispute with someone, so he asked the Wei Rong troops to be on guard to prevent people from the secular world from coming in and getting hurt. Hearing that, everyone's face turned serious. Chen Qingshan sneered and said, Qiao Shixiang's attitude is very interesting. It seems that he is not prepared to attack the martial artist who invaded the Bai family, but is instead going to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. In the past, he was not like this. At least on the surface, he is still very close to the 7 great families. I don't think we can keep this Qiao Shixiang around. We have to find a chance to make him move, or directly defeat him. Fu Hongxue was full of arrogance as he coldly snorted. If these words were to spread out, it would definitely shock a group of people. What he meant was that he actually wanted to replace Qiao Shixiang. However, everyone felt that it was only natural. The few of them present could decide the appointment of the feudal officials, control one or several industries in Wuxia, and have hundreds of billions in assets. If they worked together, it wouldn't take much effort to replace Qiao Shixiang. A cold glint flashed in Bai Diqing's eyes as he said in a low voice, what kind of person would dare to make a move against the 7 great clans and make Qiao Shixiang break off relations with them? I'm afraid there's only one person left. Under the gazes of the crowd. His eyes flashed with wisdom as he tapped his fingers on the table and said word by word, Jiang? Tu. It's Kong Teichu? When everyone heard this, they were all shocked, and the atmosphere in the conference room turned solemn. Kong Teichu, the top grandmaster in Wuxia, Wei Shufeng, Lin Zhenyu, Wang Chongyang, Xiaobin Ba Tu the Black Wing, Oyila the heaven-reaching warrior, Golden Scorpion and Apollo the sun god had all died in his hands. Most importantly, he had recently defeated the army in Japan and was a peerless overlord in East Asia. The 7 great clans were very arrogant. Even famous martial arts giants like Huaqing Tian, Zhao Yuankuan and Wu Yingxiong couldn't enter their eyes. If Huaqing Tian and the others surrendered and accepted the Condor team's invitation, then so be it. If they didn't, then they would just kill them. But as for Kong Teichu, Tin Qingshan, Lin Fengmian, Fu Hongxue, Qin Zhong and Bai Tianlei had never thought that the person who came was Kong Teichu. Who is Kong Teichu? Is he the one who wants to attack the Bai family? Where is his family from? I'll send someone to capture him. Zhang Zhonghua said as he rubbed his hands. Get out. You don't have the right to speak here. Bai Diqing's eyes suddenly became cold and he waved his hand as if he were driving away a fly. Zhang Zhonghua was such an idiot. Didn't he hear that Kong Teichu was protected by Qiao Shixiang? How could he capture him? Zhang Zhonghua's face turned red. He knew that he had said something wrong, but he didn't dare to make a sound. He walked out of the room in a daze. Why does Kong Teichu want to attack the Bai family? Is it because of the Qin family? Lin Fengmian said seriously. Because of the Qin family? The Qin family has no feud with him. Qin Qingshan was confused. Is he going to kill me? Qin Zifen, who was standing behind Qin Qingshan, trembled in fear. I have heard that Kong Teichu is arrogant and domineering. He has killed many people and he likes to take the initiative to attack. The Chinese Society of Singapore and the Japanese Cherry Blossom Society only had a slight conflict with him, but he had crossed the ocean to destroy them. Lin Fengmian said lightly. Kong Teichu had killed Qin Shuejiao before. He thinks that even if he doesn't do anything, the Qin family will do the same to him. He has always been the first to strike, so he will definitely destroy the Qin family first. This is outrageous. This is outrageous. My Qin clan is determined to fight to the death with them. We will not rest until one of us is dead. Chen Qingshan's face turned red and the veins on his forehead throbbed. He slammed the table and shouted. Qin Zitao, who had followed by Jingting to the Gu God sect, was also missing. He must have been killed by Kong Teichu. After Qin Shuejiao was killed, Qin Qingshan tried his best to suppress his anger. After Qin Zifen's failed assassination attempt, he swallowed his pride and didn't do anything to avenge himself. But now, I haven't even settled the score with you yet, and you have already come knocking on my door. Do you want Chen Qingshan to kneel down and kowtow to you before you will let the Chen family go? Kong Taichu is out of his mind. Everyone, this matter can be resolved peacefully. Suddenly, a voice came from afar. The owner of the voice was fast as lightning. When the voice was heard, the person was still a few miles away. However, as he spoke, the person got closer and closer. When the voice faded away, a tall figure appeared at the door. Dragon Head Yi, why you here? Bai Diqing led the members of the Condor team and stood up. They took a few steps forward and bowed. At the very least, they still maintained a respectful facade. The other family lords only cupped their fists and greeted the old man. Bai Tianlei nodded slightly with an arrogant look on his face. Greetings, Family Lord Bai, I am Yi Zhantian. Yi Zhantian cupped his fists and greeted Bai Tianlei. Bai Tianlei and Hao Hongmei had fought side by side with his father, Bihunren, so they were his elders. Zhantian, how do you want this matter to be resolved peacefully? Bai Tianlei nodded slightly, putting on airs. The Bai couple had been famous in the Jianghu since the Republic of China. Hao Hongmei had a charred wooden zither that could play demonic sounds, and she had a withered wooden cane. Bai Tianlei was invincible with his purple lightning azure frost sword. The two of them were famous in the Jianghu. They were known as the heart of the zither and the heart of the sword. Senior Bai, there is a reason why Kong Taichu did this. It was because Di Cheng had a girl named Huang Linger as a guest in his house. She was Kong Taichu's lover. That was why there was a misunderstanding. Yi Zhantian's attitude was humble and courteous, saving face for the Bai clan. He smiled and said, as long as you release Huang Ling and explain the situation to Jiang Taichu, I promise I will persuade Jiang Taichu to make peace with you. Di Cheng, did you do this? Bai Tianlei looked at Bai Diqing with a hint of blame in his eyes. Bai Diqing looked at Bai Tianlei and said nothing. Yi Zhantian knew that the two were communicating with each other through immortal will. After a while, Bai Diqing smiled and said, Dragon Head Yi, although I have been naughty and mischievous since I was young, I would never do something like abducting a girl. If you don't believe me, you can ask Kong Taichu to search her when he gets here. Yi Zhantian's heart sank. His eyes flashed with an almost imperceptible chill. He said with a half-smile, Di Cheng, I hope you realize the seriousness of this matter. That is Kong Taichu we are talking about. This is a misunderstanding that can be resolved with a few words. You better not blow this matter out of proportion. Otherwise, you will regret it. He knew that the Bai family was not going to admit defeat. He was afraid that he would not be able to stop this earth-shattering war. Although he was much younger than Jiang Tian, he had fought side by side in Japan. They had formed a strong friendship. He did not want to see Jiang Tian and the 7 families fight again. It had not even been a month since the Battle of Japan. Jiang Tian had fought the army head-on. It was impossible for him not to be injured. Even if he was not injured, the battle had consumed a lot of energy. With so many battles, Jiang Tian's chances of winning were slim. That was why he rushed to Yuhua Villa as soon as he heard the news. He wanted to end the war, but he did not expect that the Bai family would fight to the death. Bai Tianlei, on the other hand, was sipping his scalding hot tea. Without even raising his head, he sneered and said, Zhantian, let me tell you one more thing. Jingting was killed by Kong Taichu. Do you think I should avenge her? Yi Zhantian's heart skipped a beat. He forced a smile and said, she was kidnapped by the Gu God sect. Kong Taichu went to the Gu God sect to look for her. A war broke out between the two sides. I think Jingting died in the chaos. Kong Taichu is not a person who would kill innocent people. This is not Kong Taichu's intention. Zhantian, the Bai clan and your Yi clan have been friends for generations. You also watched Jingting grow up. I originally thought that in your eyes, they were no different from your children. Bai Tianlei shook his head and slammed the teacup on the table. He sneered. But I didn't expect that you would side with an outsider in the end. It seems that you are here to persuade Kong Taichu, not to help the Bai family. This old man is very disappointed. He waved his hand like he was shooing away a fly and directly ordered the guest to leave. Forget it. You are the leader of the Long Formation, the creator of the Overlord list in Wuxia. You are a peerless overlord who has seen the truth of the immortal state. If you help Kong Teichu, the Bai family won't be able to stop you. Yi Zhantian's words were full of sarcasm, like a needle hidden in silk floss. Yi Zhantian's face flushed red with embarrassment. Chapter 479. Juniors' cultivation is simply not worth mentioning when compared to seniors. But Yi Zhantian did not give up. Suppressing his anger, he bowed and said, "But this is a serious matter. I think you should think twice before you act. Since you have said so much, I will take my leave now." Yi Zhantian, don't go. At this moment, a cold voice came and a figure appeared at the door like a ghost. Senior Hongmei. Yi Zhantian's heart skipped a beat when he saw who it was. He quickly saluted. Senior Hongmei. Ancestor. Many other family heads, core disciples, and masters also stood up and saluted as if springs were attached to their butts. They were even more respectful than they were to Bai Tunlei, and there was even a hint of fear in their eyes. How Hongmei didn't even spare a glance at the crowd. Leaning on a dead wooden crutch, she walked slowly towards Yi Zhantian with her back hunched. She stared at Yi Zhantian and sneered. Yi Zhantian, let me tell you, Huang Linger is in the secret chamber of the Bai family. But we will never return her to Kong Teichu. Senior Hongmei, can't you be a little more reasonable? Yi Zhantian suppressed his anger and smiled. Hongmei, Bai Tunlei frowned and shouted in a low voice. He seemed to be dissatisfied with how Hongmei's arrogant attitude, but he did not dare to speak harshly. You old coffin board, your great-great-grandson has been killed. Why aren't you taking revenge? Why are you holding a bullshit meeting with a bunch of trash here? Why are you still chattering here? I think you're just a piece of trash, worse than a pig. How Hongmei pointed at Bai Tianlei's nose and scolded him. Her words were filthy and filthy. Hongmei, aren't I preparing for it now? Bai Tianlei's face turned red and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He explained weakly, looking scared and cowering. Seeing this, the crowd did not know whether to laugh or cry. They lowered their heads and did not look at Bai Tianlei's embarrassed face. Who would have thought that Bai Tianlei, the family head of the Bai family, was afraid of his wife? But there was nothing they could do. How Hongmei's brother was the head of Mount Amei, one of the top 3 masters of the hidden sects, Hao Taichong. Qin Qingshan, what are you laughing at? You guys are also trash. Chen Xuejiao was killed and you didn't even say a word. Could it be that the martial arts world no longer belongs to our 7 ruling families, but to that bastard Kong Teichu? How Hongmei scolded Bai Tianlei and the others for more than 10 minutes before she was finally satisfied. She looked at Yi Zhantian again. Reason? Fine, I'll reason with you. Although How Hongmei was stooped and looked short, she had been in a high position for a long time. She had a huge aura, like a god who controlled the fate of the common people. Martial artists can't be humiliated. Grandmasters are like dragons, and immortal state experts are like gods. The people of the secular world are insects, ants, lowly creatures. Her face was full of disdain. She's just a woman from the secular world, just like an ant or a bug. My great-grandson took a fancy to her physique and took her as a cultivation cauldron. That's her good fortune from 8 lifetimes, and it's also Jiang Taichu's honor. Jiang Taichu should be deeply grateful, beating the gongs and drums, and happily delivering the gifts. How dare he kill a member of the Bai family? He must be tired of living. Now that he's here, I don't have to go looking for him. Even if he doesn't come, I will hunt him down to the ends of the earth. I will tear his tendons, skin him alive, and refine his soul. I will torture him for 1.5 years before I turn him into ashes. Senior Hongmei, I don't think so. I think the strong exist to protect the weak and fight for the weak. Because the so-called weak are the flame that guarantees the endless growth of human civilization. Yi Zhantian said seriously. The weak are just physically weak. It doesn't mean that they are mentally weak, and it doesn't mean that they are weak when it comes to using tools and weapons. Animals, tigers and wolves have sharp claws and teeth, but they still can't beat human beings. But human beings are good at making use of material things. For example, you can kill Einstein with a single finger, but his brain and theories can create nuclear weapons. Dare I ask, which powerful person today can be a match for nuclear weapons? Yi Zhantian, you little brat, are you calling me a beast? Hao Hongmei suddenly roared angrily. She waved her arms and legs, and a strong murderous intent and anger swept out. Senior Hongmei, I don't mean that. Yi Zhantian quickly explained. That's exactly what you mean. Go to hell. Hao Hongmei glared at him and suddenly slammed her palm forward. Senior Hongmei, although Yi Zhantian had long heard of Hao Hongmei's fiery temper, he did not expect her to be like a barrel of gunpowder that could be ignited at the slightest provocation. In a moment of desperation, he hurriedly countered with a palm strike. Kaboom! Boom! When the two palms collided, a thunderous explosion was heard. Streams of qi shot out in all directions. With a loud thud, Yi Zhantian was sent flying more than 10 meters away. He had to use the 1,000-pound drop to land on the ground. His blood was boiling in his chest, and he felt something sweet in his throat. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He was shocked. This old woman was so powerful that she was even more powerful than his father before he joined Hongmeng. She must have reached the immortal state consummation. Jiang Tian had really run into a tough nut this time. Senior Hongmei, I've said my piece. I'll take my leave now. Take care. Yi Zhantian swallowed the blood that was about to come out of his mouth. His face darkened and he was about to leave. Don't go! Hao Hongmei shouted. What? Senior Hongmei, do you still want to kill me? Yi Zhantian's eyes were cold, and his fighting spirit was rising. Hee, you are my junior. You should call me aunt. I won't kill you for your father's sake. Hao Hongmei slammed her walking stick on the ground and sneered. But I want you to stay here and watch how I kill that arrogant brat Jiang Taichu. Is Senior Hongmei going to do it herself? That's great. This time, that madman Jiang Taichu is finally going to meet his doom. Humph, this arrogant bastard has no respect for the 7 major families. We should have killed him long ago. As soon as she said this, the eyes of everyone present became excited. Hao Hongmei was too powerful. She had actually made a move this time. Jiang Taichu would definitely not be her match. In the eyes of the 7 major families of Yanjin, Hao Hongmei was an invincible guardian angel. Kang Taichu could dominate Japan and even defeat an army. However, there was still a gap between him and a living fossil like Hao Hongmei. Hao Hongmei had entered the immortal state decades ago. Back then, she was on par with Yi Tianren. She was from the orthodox Mount Shu orthodoxy. However, she had been cultivating diligently and living in seclusion. After so many years of absorbing the spiritual qi of the dragon marrow and dragon veins, Hao Hongmei must have become even more powerful. Jiang Tian had been in the divine realm for a few years, but he had only been practicing ancient martial arts for a few years. In terms of cultivation resources, martial arts inheritance, experience, dojo, and everything else, he couldn't be compared with Hao Hongmei. He couldn't compete in anything, so how could he be Hao Hongmei's opponent? Hao Hongmei, you old hag. Do you think you can kill me? Fine, I, Kang Taichu, will wait for you to kill me. Right at this moment, a cold voice sounded. Boom, boom. Tiles flew everywhere and beams snapped. A figure shot through the roof and crashed into Hao Hongmei like a bolt of lightning. Kang Taichu, you are finally here. Hao Hongmei saw a blur in front of her and instinctively struck out with her palm. There was only a rumble. With a bang, that figure immediately exploded. Blood splashed everywhere, pieces of corpse falling everywhere. He's dead? Kang Taichu can't even withstand a single blow. Hao Hongmei was overjoyed, but a trace of suspicion emerged. But when she took a closer look, she was shocked. She rushed over and held the head in her arms. Jingting. In fact, the figure just now was by Jingting's body. Hao Hongmei's mind was in turmoil and she didn't think of this for a moment. She just thought that she had killed her great-grandson with her own hands. She couldn't help but feel sad and tears fell like rain. She opened her mouth and cried loudly, "My poor Jingting, my dear great-grandson, did I kill you with my own hands?" It was a great sadness for a white-haired person to send off a black-haired person. She couldn't bear it and felt like her heart was being cut by a knife. Hongmei, Jingting has been dead for a long time. Didn't you sense it with your spiritual strength before? Moreover, his body has been cold for a long time, Baitanlei persuaded her softly. His eyes were also red. Yes, Kong Techu, come out. I'm going to tear you to pieces. Hao Hongmei stood up and shouted angrily. She didn't forget to instruct the servants. Clean up Jingting's body properly. Don't dirty it. Alas, he died without an intact body. She couldn't help but cry again. Yes, I only killed by Jingting, but you helped me whip his body. Hao Hongmei, you're ruthless enough. You're an old demon, you deserve your reputation. Jiang Tian stepped forward and walked into the hall. He said coldly, hand over Huang Linger, or I'll destroy your whole family. When these words came out, everyone was shocked. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. They had seen arrogant people, but they had never seen someone as arrogant as Kong Techu. He was too overbearing. In the face of an old monster like Hao Hongmei, he dared to say that he would destroy the Bai family. He simply didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Kong Techu, you killed my great-great-grandson, and you still want that little hoof? Hao Hongmei was so angry that her whole body trembled. She stared at Jiang Tian with a face full of hatred. She gritted her teeth and shouted, let's not talk about the imperial city using her as a cultivation furnace. Even if we don't need her, we'll tear her to pieces and bury her with my great-great-grandson. Your Bai family treats human lives like grass and uses living people as cultivation furnaces. You should be prepared to be killed. Jiang Tian snorted. His face was full of killing intent. So what if I killed by Jingting? Something like a dog can be killed whenever I want. It's just an appetizer. If you don't hand over Huang Linger, I'll continue to kill until you obediently hand her over. For 60 years, no one has dared to provoke the Bai family. You're the first. Very good, very good. Today, this old woman will let everyone see the consequences of provoking my Bai family. Hao Hongmei activated her cultivation technique and approached Jiang Tian. Hongmei. Bai Tianlei grabbed Hao Hongmei and said in a deep voice, your aura is unstable in your anger. Wait a moment. Yes, Senior Hongmei, there's no need to use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. There's no need for you to deal with such a small character. This junior will help you get rid of him. Fu Hongshua's eyes flashed with a sharp cold light. He stared at Jiang Tian and stepped out of the crowd, his aura rising steadily. Chapter 480. Yi Zhantian grabbed Jiang Tian's arm and warned him, Brother Jiang, are you sure you want to fight? This is going to be a dangerous battle. Yi Zhantian told Jiang Tian about Hao Hongmei's power and combat prowess through telepathy. Even if the almighty God of the great all-embracing heaven stole my woman, I will kill them all. Jiang Tian interrupted Yi Zhantian in the middle of his speech. He scanned the crowd with a murderous gaze and finally fixed his eyes on Fu Hongxue. This is between me, Kong Techu, and the Bai family. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Today, I am going to kill all of you. You better stay out of it. Anyone who tries to stop me will die. Ha! Kong Techu, you are so arrogant. Hearing this, Fu Hongxue laughed out loud, stepped forward, pointed at Jiang Tian and shouted coldly. Jiang Taichu, the 7 great clans are of the same breath and branch, always attacking and retreating together. You offended the Bai family, which is the same as provoking the 7 families. How can we just stand by and watch? I advise you to kill yourself as an apology. Otherwise, we will not let you and the Jiang family of Jinling go. Jiang Tian's identity in the secular world was a secret, but he could not hide it from the top families. The Condor unit had many connections. Their intelligence network was as good as the Long Formation unit. It was too easy for them to find out about Jiang Tian's background. His words were quite lethal and had also hit Jiang Tian's weak spot, directly targeting Jiang Tian's vital points, his family, friends, and worldly assets. Jiang Tian himself was very strong, but the Jiang clan was a mediocre clan in the end. Their martial cultivation was very weak, and could not be compared to the 7 great clans at all. Little did he know that his threat not only hit Jiang Tian's soft spot, but also touched Jiang Tian's reverse scale. Jiang Tian said, "I don't care if you threaten me, but don't you dare touch my family and friends. Looks like you are going to meddle in my business." Jiang Tian snorted and did not move at all. Today Fu Hongxue was pointing at Jiang Tian with a face full of disdain. He sneered, but his words stopped abruptly. He was still standing proudly and his arm was still raised. His finger was still pointing at Jiang Tian, but the expression on his face had turned into shock and horror. What happened to Reds now? Chen Qingshan took a step forward, but to his shock, he saw a thin, almost invisible wound on Fu Hongxue's neck. The wound quickly expanded, and blood spurted out a few meters high. Fu Hongxue's head hit the roof, and the headless corpse fell to the ground, splashing waves of blood. What? He killed Fu Hongxue? This is too scary. Everyone's hearts jumped, and they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Then they all cried out in alarm. First of all, they were amazed by Jiang Tian's cultivation. They knew that Jiang Tian had reached the immortal state, but Fu Hongxue was also at the peak of the transcendent state. In their opinion, Fu Hongxue would have to fight with Jiang Tian. But the reality was that they didn't even see clearly how Jiang Tian attacked, and Fu Hongxue was killed. This was clearly an instant kill. Second, they were shocked by Jiang Tian's ruthless means. Fu Hongxue was the head of the Fu family, one of the 7 ruling families. What kind of status and power did he have? Fu Hongxue's status was completely incomparable to Bai Jingting and Chen Xuejiao. He was a martial arts giant and could be called a hero. These families were very large and had many descendants. To put it bluntly, the death of 1 or 2 people would not affect the operation of a family at all. They were shocked and angry at Bai Jingting and Chen Xuejiao's death, but more than that, they were angry because their dignity had been violated. But now, Jiang Tian killed the head of the Fu family without saying anything. This kind of decisiveness and ruthlessness was far beyond their imagination. Everyone was stunned for a few seconds before they came back to their senses. Chen Qingshan swallowed and glanced at Lin Fengmian and Qin Zhong. He found that they were just as frightened as he was. In fact, most of the family lords were at the same level as Fu Hongxue. Most of them were at the peak of the transcendent state or half a step away from the immortal state. However, Jiang Tian's ability to kill a peak transcendent state cultivator in a second had frightened them. Family head Bai, Senior Hongmei, please avenge the Fu family. The members of the Fu family knelt down in front of Bai Jingting and Hao Hongmei and cried. Their cultivation level was lower than Fu Hongxue's, and now that Fu Hongxue had been killed, the others would only be cannon fodder if they dared to challenge Jiang Tian. Kong Teichu, you bastard! How dare you! Bai Jingting's face changed continuously. Shock, fear, disbelief, anger and many other emotions flashed across his face. In the end, his aura rose steadily, and with a rumble, surging waves of air pushed out like raging waves. What a powerful energy! Is family head Bai going to make a move? The surrounding people were shaken and staggered back a few steps as they looked at Bai Tianlei in horror. He gritted his teeth and shouted angrily, "Jiang Taichu, you're too arrogant and ruthless. How dare you kill my Bai family's ally in the Bai family's Yuhua villa? You really don't put my Bai family in your eyes." I said, "Hand over Huang Linger and I will stop. If you don't hand her over, I will kill you until you are in despair." Jiang Tian was as calm as a rock, as if he didn't care about Bai Jingting's monstrous energy at all. "Kong Teichu, I admit that you have some strength. You drained Xiaobin's blood essence at Moling Lake and killed Miyamoto Geniki on Mount Fuji. You should be in the God state consummation." Bai Tianlei surprisingly calmed down, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. This made Jiang Tian admire him a little. For a martial artist, too much emotion in a fight would indeed make the attack fierce. However, in a fight between masters, a slight mistake could lead to a huge mistake. In fact, it was better to keep a calm mind and be able to judge the situation. Bai Jingting's inheritance came from Mount Shu's Amei sword sect. The so-called sword was light and agile. This was not a fierce and domineering fighting style, so anger points were useless. Bai Tianlei sneered and said slowly, "But if I wait for another 20 years, I may not dare to compete with you. But now, you are still lacking." Before his voice died away, his body suddenly swayed. With a bang, he arrived in front of Jiang Tian and directly slapped his palm towards Jiang Tian. This palm did not look like it was made by a martial arts master at all. It was like an old man doing Tai Chi in the park. It was light and there was no momentum to speak of. There was no sparks, and there was no sound of sonic booms. But in the eyes of everyone, this palm was like the ancient god Gonggong slapping down Mount Buzhou, containing the power to destroy heaven and earth. Is this the peak of the god state? Seeing this, Jiang Tian was slightly surprised. He took a step forward and punched with all his strength. Previously, he and Yizhantian had discussed the peak of the god state. Yizhantian had summed it up with 4 words: restrained divine essence. At the peak of the divine realm, it was as if one had seen simplicity, washed away all the impurities, and returned to the original state. All the aura and spirit were restrained within the body, causing one's life to return to the original state. One's mind was free of evil, and one's spirit was free of desires. One's physique was pure, one's spirit was pure, one's cultivation method was natural, and one's Tao was natural. The attack of the God state peak stage seemed to be silent, but in fact, it was a heavy sword without a sharp edge. Great craftsmanship made it look clumsy. The elephant was silent, but the loud had hope. The attack of the peak of the God state was definitely more than 10 times more lethal than that of the peak of the God state. It was far more lethal than that of a master like Miyamoto Genichi. And it was very confusing and impossible to guard against. The fist and the palm collided, making a sound like a tire bursting, but there was no air wave. This was a pure competition of strength, and there was no waste of aura. Thump, thump, thump. Bai Tianlei retreated a few steps until he reached the back wall of the conference room. Then, he twisted his burning palm that was about to break and looked at Jiang Tian in horror. He was at the peak of the God state, but he didn't hurt Jiang Tian at all. He even suffered a little. Was Jiang Tian also at the peak of the God state? If Jiang Tian was at the peak of the God state, the Bai family would be in trouble if they offended such a freak in the cultivation world. There was even a trace of panic in his heart, but he soon calmed down. He cultivated sword qi and then turned it into genuine qi to refine his body. He was not at an advantage over the young man who was known for his physique. Besides, he didn't use all his strength in a hurry, but Jiang Tian punched him with all his strength. It was normal for him to suffer a little loss. But this still made him speechless. It could be seen that Jiang Tian's cultivation was indeed superior to the other 6 patriarchs. Even if Bai Diqing forcibly increased his cultivation with the help of the Gu insects and Mount Shu cultivation method, he still couldn't catch up with Jiang Tian's cultivation speed. He couldn't believe it, as if he had seen a ghost. What? Next to him, Qin Zhong, Lin Fengyan, Chen Qingshan and other masters were also shocked. The others couldn't close their mouths for a long time. This was Bai Tianlei, the patriarch of the Bai family, a peerless master who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Yi Tenren, had cultivated in the Mount Shu sword sect for 10 years. But Kong Teichu had defeated him. How was this possible? This was simply a freak in the cultivation world, like a legend. Yizhantian was ecstatic and clenched his fists again. Although his cultivation was not as good as Jiang Tian and Bai Tianlei, he could see that Jiang Tian was at least not weaker than Bai Tianlei, and even had the upper hand. Jiang Tian's performance really exceeded his expectations. His cultivation was simply unfathomable, and he advanced at a godly speed, making rapid progress. What kind of freak was this kid? It had only been a month, but his strength had far surpassed the day on Mount Fuji. However, Jiang Tian was secretly shocked. He was indeed at the peak of the immortal state. Moreover, he had actually compressed his true qi to the extreme, causing his aura to become even purer. It had almost undergone a qualitative change, and was not much different from true essence. He even found out with his divine sense that the true qi in Bai Tianlei's body had taken the form of a cloud. However, Jiang Tian didn't care. Although Bai Tianlei was at the peak of the immortal state, his true essence was still too weak. Not to mention that his divine sense was not comparable to Jiang Tian's divine sense. Maybe when Jiang Tian was at the 5th level of qi refinement, he would have to be careful. But now that he had broken through to the 6th level of qi refinement, it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill Bai Tianlei. Kong Teichu, you are indeed strong. This place is too small. Can you come with me to the Xianglu Peak for a fight? Bai Tianlei shot a cold glance at Jiang Tian. His figure flickered, and like an arrow, he shot out of the door. Chapter 481. Kong Teichu, Huang Linger was injured, but I've already healed her. If you can defeat us, not only will we return Huang Linger to you, but we will also let you do whatever you want to us. Hao Hongmei glared at Jiang Tian with her gloomy, triangular eyes. She also cackled viciously. If you can't defeat us, not only will you die, but Huang Linger will also become my great-great-grandson's cultivation vessel. I will also exterminate your Jiang family and crush everyone into meat paste. Old fart, cut the crap. I'm going to send you all to hell today. Jiang Tian walked towards the door. It seemed that they would not know how powerful he was until he killed them. Tiangtian, be careful. That Hao Hongmei is very powerful, Yi Zhantian whispered as he held Jiang Tian's hand. Brother Yi, are you hurt? Let me help you heal. Jiang Tian held Yi Zhantian's wrist and channeled a stream of true yuan into his body. In just a few minutes, Yi Zhantian's internal injuries were completely healed. Jiang Tian, you can actually heal with inner qi? What kind of martial art is this? Yi Zhantian was stunned. I have my ways. Let's talk after I finish this battle. Also, thank you for your help. Jiang Tian could heal injuries with talismans, qi, and pills. There were hundreds of thousands of ways he could heal injuries. It was impossible to describe them all in one go. Today, Yi Zhantian came to the Bai family to mediate. Although he did not help much, at least he stood up and made his stance clear. Jiang Tian owed him a favor. Sigh, I didn't help much either. I didn't expect the 2 old farts of the Bai family to be so powerful. Yi Zhantian felt a little disheartened. He'd once cultivated bitterly behind closed doors for 20 years, but Jiang Tian had caught up from behind, and it had already caused him to suffer a great setback. Today, when he fought with Hao Hongmei, he felt that his cultivation was like child's play and was unable to withstand a single blow, and he couldn't help but feel slightly dejected. Powerful my ass. Just an ant. Don't be discouraged. Believe in yourself. You can surpass them. Jiang Tian patted him on the shoulder to comfort him. With a chuckle, he stepped into the air and disappeared from everyone's sight. Then, he stepped onto his flying sword and turned into a stream of light, heading straight for the incense furnace peak. Let's go to Xianglu Peak to watch the battle. The road is not easy to walk on. Even if we drive, I'm afraid it will take half an hour. Qingshan, didn't you come here by helicopter? Let's take Green Mountain's helicopter and hurry over. This is a battle of the gods, how can we miss it? Chen Qingshan and the others looked at each other, then boarded the helicopter and rushed to Xianglu Peak. Everyone was very excited and shocked. War of the Gods. The Battle of the Immortal Realm. This was too rare. A deity realm expert could soar above the 9 heavens. Every kick and punch carried the power of heaven and earth. In history, once an immortal state warrior fought, the people would be in a terrible situation. They could even destroy a city or a mountain. That was why it was called the War of the Gods. Ever since Heavenly Yi showed off his power as an immortal state cultivator in the early days of the country's founding, he went on a killing spree and started many divine wars to suppress the Chinese martial arts world. This battle is of great importance and it is extremely glorious. We can't miss it. Is Kong Teichu really going to fight 2 immortal state warriors for a mortal girl? Mr. and Mrs. Bai and Kong Teichu are extremely arrogant people. I'm afraid they will fight. If we can witness it with our own eyes, it will be a great opportunity. By then everyone was moved. They all rushed to the incense furnace peak on foot, by car or by helicopter. Their eyes were full of excitement and they didn't want to miss the battle. In the long river of history, all the experts at the God-rank realm that appeared in the world were the strongest and most respected figures in their respective countries and sections. For example, Wang Chongyan of the Singapore continent was said to be half a step away from the immortal state, but he was able to control a country and become the imperial preceptor of the Singapore continent. Xiao Bin, on the other hand, was only a half-step immortal state warrior and had seen the truth of the immortal state warrior. However, he was already on the same level as the commander of the Northern Army of Russia and had been warmly received by the Russian emperor. Miyamoto Genichi, who had reached the phenomenal success of the immortal state warrior, was able to rule Japan for decades and was conferred a title by the emperor. Even the prime minister and many tycoons treated him with respect. In some small countries in Africa, South America, and the Middle East, immortal state warriors could even start wars and control politics. How shocking was the battle between them? How great was its destructive power? It had the power to destroy the heavens and earth. Therefore, all the immortal state warriors kept their skills to themselves and didn't use them easily. Jiang Tian dared to challenge the patriarch of the Bai clan, the leader of the 7 ruling clans, just for a mortal girl. It was unbelievable and they still could not believe it. The incense furnace peak was more than 10 miles away from the Yu Hua villa. Bai Tianlei and his wife used their body art and jumped between the mountains like 2 giant birds. It only took them a dozen minutes to reach the peak. Bai Tianlei panted and looked back at the empty space behind him. He sneered and said with disdain, "Hongmei, what level do you think he is at? I heard that he is an immortal state warrior." I think everyone has overestimated him. Before he finished his sentence, his eyes widened and his mouth opened wide like a duck being strangled, but he couldn't make a sound. Because he had already seen Jiang Tian standing on the peak with his hands behind his back. His breath was steady and he stared at him coldly. Apparently, he had been there for a long time. At this moment, Bai Tianlei felt his hair stand on end again. His confidence that was bursting just now was shaken. Since breaking through to the God Realm peak stage a few years ago, Bai Tianlei had been full of confidence, as if he was climbing Mount Tai and looking down on the world's heroes. It was this feeling that made him unable to accept Jiang Tian's provocation to the Bai family and himself, which made him extremely angry. He wanted to fight with Jiang Tian to the death to decide who was better and let the world's heroes see the serious consequences of offending the Bai family. But at this moment, he couldn't help but doubt whether his decision was right. Did he really want to fight with Jiang Tian? Jiang Tian's speed was absolutely unimaginable. Even if he took a helicopter, it was impossible to be so fast. Moreover, he actually didn't notice how Jiang Tian came over. He didn't sense any aura at all. This was really a little too terrifying. "Kong Teichu, how did you come here?" Bai Tianlei asked in a dry voice and even trembled a little. "Ulmen, you talk too much. I'll kill you first." Jiang Tian took out the little black flying sword and played the sword with his fingers. His fighting spirit rose steadily and he smiled coldly. Storage Dharma artifact. You actually have a storage Dharma artifact. Oh my god, I didn't expect there to be a real storage Dharma artifact in this world. Seeing this, Hao Hongmei's eyes lit up and she stared at the Dharma artifact in Jiang Tian's hand. Her ugly scarred face was full of greed. At this moment, she was ecstatic. He even forgot the grief of Bai Jingting's death. Storage Dharma artifacts were the rarest Dharma artifacts in today's cultivation world. They could change the rules of space and store many Dharma artifacts and weapons, making the enemy unaware and impossible to guard against. It was really a cheat. Yes, it's a storage Dharma artifact. Why do you want to snatch it? Do you have to have the ability to do so? Jiang Tian said sarcastically. In fact, he was also a little surprised by Hao Hongmei's eyesight and insight. It was not the first time he used a storage Dharma artifact in a Dharma artifact. But before this, whether it was Wang Chongyan Yizhantian or Miyamoto Genichi, none of them realized that it was a storage Dharma artifact. They all thought that Jiang Tian was using a concealment talisman or Dharma artifact, but Hao Hongmei saw through it at a glance. Even if she had never seen a storage Dharma artifact, she had at least heard of or read about it. Bai Tianlei, Are you a fool? What are you waiting for? Hurry up and get it for me. Hao Hongmei gave the dumbstruck Bai Tianlei a tight slap, causing him to stagger. Bai Tianlei was slapped, but he seemed to be completely unaware of it. He just stared fixedly at Jiang Tian and said in a cold voice, Jiang Taichu, you don't know the principle of not revealing one's wealth. Not to mention that you killed my great-great-grandson Bai Jingting and repeatedly offended my Bai clan, just based on the fact that you revealed this treasure that can store things, you're dead for sure. Old man, you talk too much nonsense. You two coffin ladles attack together, don't waste my time. Jiang Tian shouted coldly. Good. Kong Taichu, you are really arrogant and ignorant. Today, I will let you see the true strength of Mount Shu sword cultivators. Before his voice died away, he pointed his right hand at Jiang Tian. The long sword on his back trembled for a moment, then broke through the air and soared up like a bolt of lightning, instantly crossing dozens of meters of the void, flying up and down, and stabbing at Jiang Tian from all directions. Clang, clang. Sparks flew in the darkness, illuminating the surrounding scenery in an instant. Xiao Hei's flying sword and the long sword fiercely collided again and again. And, old man, your method of not using sword chi and using the sword itself to attack isn't bad. The purple lightning cyan frost sword is one of the 10 famous swords of Amei. According to legend, it came from the hands of a great master refiner of the Song dynasty. With the existence of magic power, how could his black and swarthy broken sword block it? Seeing this, Hao Hongmei's face finally revealed a trace of praise. This old man's sword technique is so powerful. Jiang Tian could feel the tremor of Xiao Hei's flying sword. He could not help but be secretly shocked and somewhat amazed. Bai Tianlei's sword technique was so powerful. He won by purely using the sword body to attack, but it was sharp and swift, and there was no leakage of true chi. This kind of returning to the original fighting style was many times better than Miyamoto Geniki. But he did not know that Bai Tianlei was even more shocked. He is only in his 20s. How can his sword technique be so powerful? I practice the true inheritance of Mount Shuzame, but he can block it every time and almost make my sword fly out of control. Suddenly, swoosh, Bai Tianlei waved his hand and the sword flew back to his hand. How is this possible? A scream sounded. He was shocked to see that the purple electric blue frost sword, one of the 10 famous swords of Amei sect, had gaps of different sizes on its 2 blades, as if it had been gnawed by a dog. This was one of the 10 famous swords of Amei sect. It was said that it had been used by the previous sword immortals. It had slain demons and killed god realm masters. It was incomparably sharp and indestructible. It used to be the sword of Amei sect's leader, Hao Taichong. When Hao Hongmei married him, Hao Taichong gave it to him as a dowry. But at this moment, it was actually almost cut in half by Jiang Tian's black broken sword. This was really too inconceivable. Chapter 482. Kong Taichu, what kind of sword is that? Hao Hongmei asked in shock. This sword is called Little Black. Jiang Tian said lightly. You destroyed my sword. The purple electric cyan frost sword, which had accompanied him for many years, was almost destroyed. Bai Tianlei couldn't help but be shocked and scared. His heart was bleeding. Silly goose, why are you so sad? That dark and swarthy sword of his was the real treasure sword. Kill him and take his sword. Hao Hongmei gnashed her teeth and urged Bai Tianlei. She was very angry at him for not fighting back. Good. Kong Taichu, you are indeed very strong. In the secular martial arts world, only Yi Tianren could give me this kind of pressure. Bai Tianlei shouted coldly. His eyes were unprecedentedly cold and dignified. He knew that he had met a formidable enemy. However, since you dare to challenge the Bai family, you should be prepared to be killed. That you talk too much nonsense. Jiang Tian shouted coldly and took the initiative to attack. Swoosh! Xiao Hei's flying sword cut through the night sky like a bolt of black lightning. Wind! Bai Tianlei shouted and waved his hands. Suddenly, Countless sword-shaped chi swords condensed in the air and gathered into a hurricane dragon, rolling toward Little Black's flying sword and Jiang Tian. This was the majestic power of the peak of the immortal state. He didn't need to use any secret arts to condense a dragon of chi swords with a wave of his sleeve. These chi swords were condensed by his own sword chi mixed with pure heaven and earth spiritual chi. However, they were far sharper than ordinary swords. They could easily penetrate a few centimeters thick steel plate. They were simply invincible. Bang, bang, bang. Little Black's flying sword shot into the dragon of chi swords and broke through them like a string of firecrackers. However, the long chi sword dragon continued to converge, as if it was endless, advancing wave after wave. Xiao Hei's flying sword gradually slowed down, and finally stopped about 10 meters away from Bai Tianlei. The old man has been sitting on the dual clarity dragon pith spiritual vein for dozens of years, and his sword chi is as deep as the sea. The incense furnace peak is blessed by the heavens, and the heaven and earth spiritual chi is inexhaustible. Let's see how long you can last. Bai Tianlei snorted arrogantly. Really? Do you think I only have this sword? Then you're wrong. In response, Jiang Tian only snorted coldly. He grabbed the Thunderfall Divine Wood and activated it. Thunder! Boom! Amidst the explosions, bolts of lightning as thick as an arm descended from the sky, like the Milky Way descending from the ninth heaven, striking towards Bai Tianlei. This brat actually knows lightning magic. Bai Tianlei's face turned serious. His right hand continued to move the chi sword to block Xiao Hei's flying sword, while his right hand formed a hand seal. Whoosh! Whoosh! A small iron shield shot out from his chest and instantly grew to the size of a millstone. It soared into the sky and met the lightning bolts head-on. Boom! Bolts of lightning struck the big shield, like silver snakes dancing wildly. The light screen of the iron shield flickered and emitted tens of thousands of rays of light. It held on for a full 3 seconds before cracking and shattering into pieces. One after another, the fragments shot into the ground, bringing with them clumps of lightning. Kong Teichu, what else do you have? Just use it. I'm not afraid at all. Seeing that even the sky-shielding shield that he had snatched from the Lu family fort had been shattered, Bai Tianlei felt extremely pained. However, he did not show any signs of weakness on the surface. He roared with a face full of pride. Really? Then I'll do as you wish, old man. Jiang Tian snorted and took out the shell of the mountain-carrying turtle. He swung it up high and slapped it down as if he was swatting a fly. The power of this attack was truly unimaginable. The mountain-carrying turtle's yellow light flickered, as if it occupied several majestic mountains. It smashed down from the sky with an incomparably dense mountain aura. This mountain aura was the size of a basketball court. It was as heavy as a mountain and incomparably dense. It was like a meteorite from the depths of the universe. What a powerful aura! Bai Tianlei had no doubt that if this attack hit, not to mention himself, even a tank would be smashed into a meat patty. Bai Tianlei and Hao Hongmei did not dare to take it head-on. They stomped their feet on the ground and shot dozens of meters away. Standing in the air, they were shocked to see, boom! In the midst of the loud noise. On the mountainous area where they were, huge rocks weighing thousands of kilograms were directly smashed into powder by the mountain-carrying turtle's shield. A deep pit with a radius of 7 to 8 meters and a depth of 1 meter was formed. Without the obstruction of the chi sword dragon, Xiao Hei's flying sword continued to press forward and penetrated more than 10 meters deep into the ground. Kong Teichu, you evil thief, I'll teach you a lesson today. Hao Hongmei's malicious eyes were filled with murderous intent. She finally made her move. She slammed the withered wooden cane in her hand on the ground. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth surged uneasily. Bush, bush. Suddenly, green branches sprouted from the dead wooden cane. They were sparkling and translucent, just like a dark green color. They emitted a dark green light and looked incomparably soft and cute. HM? What a powerful aura! It's a heavenly source divine wood. But Jiang Tian had never been so afraid before. His eyes suddenly narrowed and he was shocked at first, then he was suddenly overjoyed. The divine tree of heavenly source was too famous. Everyone in the cultivation world knew about it. This divine wood was a superior grade spirit wood. If one wanted to cut it, it would need a foundation establishment cultivator to cut it with a superior grade flying sword for 10 years. After it was cut, it would not die for 1,000 years. After it died, it would not die for 10,000 years. After it rotted, its spiritual chi would dissipate after 100,000 years. It contained powerful wood energy and could continuously absorb the earth and wood energy in the world. It could instantly turn into a branch-shaped chi weapon and form a powerful attack. It was the favorite Dharma artifact material for wood spirit root cultivators. Its reproduction ability was very poor. It would take 1,000 years to sprout and grow a few inches, so it was very rare. In the cultivation world, even a foundation establishment cultivator could not get one even if he wanted to. Jiang Tian also wanted to seize the treasure. If he could get the heavenly source divine wood, Huang Linger would have another handy weapon. However, this branch was very dangerous. It was as fast as a flying sword and pierced through the void like a divine chain. Boom, 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 boom. The branch moved forward and easily pierced through the huge rocks and towering trees. It covered a distance of 100 meters in the blink of an eye and almost arrived in front of Jiang Tian. Under such circumstances, Jiang Tian did not dare to be careless. Xiao Hei's flying sword seemed to be plated with gold. The blade of the sword flashed with a golden light and slashed down. With a clang, Xiao Hei's flying sword cut the green branch and made a sound of metal and stone colliding, bursting into sparks. After a slight pause, Xiao Hei's flying sword cut the branch of the heavenly source divine wood to the ground. Gingjin subdued wood. Wood-type magic treasures were most afraid of metal magic treasures. It was its natural nemesis. Moreover, Xiao Hei's flying sword was not an ordinary magic treasure. It was an item of the heavenly court. It was made of immortal tier black gold and had been refined by Jiang Tian several times. It was so sharp that it could cut through everything in the world. It could even pierce through tanks and warships. However, when Jiang Tian cut it, he had an obvious feeling of difficulty. This showed how powerful and terrifying the heavenly source divine wood was. No wonder it was called spiritual wood. It was one level higher than treasure wood. Kong Techu, go to hell! How Hongmei roared. Her orange peel-like old face was twisted and hideous with bloodstains like earthworms. She made a gesture with both hands and activated it again. With a bang, another dark green branch streaked across the sky in a beautiful trajectory. It looked sparkling and agile, but its destructive power was astonishing. A part of the void was shaken to the point of shattering. Jiang Tian stepped in the air and drew a golden light beam in the air. He crossed 100 meters and pounced on Hao Hongmei and Xiao Hei. Since his opponent's Dharma treasure was powerful, he chose to fight close combat. Jiang Tian had rich combat experience, and he certainly knew how to play to his strengths and avoid his weaknesses. This is breaking the sound barrier with his body. Kong Techu is so powerful. Then, many overlords of Yanjin arrived at the foot of the mountain and saw this shocking scene. They couldn't help but gasp. So what if Kong Techu is powerful? My great-grandfather is at the peak of the immortal state. He is dead meat. In the crowd, a beautiful girl snorted and stared at Jiang Tian with disdain, as if Jiang Tian was already a dead man. Her name was Bai Zhilan and she was of the same generation as Bai Dichen. She had reached the initial success of the transcendent state and was known as the prodigy of the Bai family. She was also a member of the Condor team and was Bai Dichen's right-hand man. She had also been the one who came up with the plan to send Jiang Tian to Japan. Bang, bang, bang. On the mountainside, Jiang Tian was fighting with the two of them, using his physical body to attack. Rocks were flying everywhere, rolling on the ground. The maple tree that the two of them were hugging was broken like a twig. The whole ground was shaking violently, and dust was rolling everywhere. This time, Hao Hongmei's heavenly divine wood cane and Bai Tianlei's chi blade couldn't be used. In terms of physical strength, not even 10 overlords like them could withstand Jiang Tian's body of Gongjin. Jiang Taichu, this little bastard is too ruthless. Didn't Brother Di Cheng kidnap a mortal girl? What's the big deal? Brother Di Cheng slept with her and killed her. So what? He's still making such a big fuss. Isn't he just looking for trouble? At the foot of the mountain, Bai Jingqi snorted. He thought that Jiang Tian was digging his own grave. I have heard that Kong Teichu's family is very wealthy. When the time comes, I will take over the Jiang family's assets. In the crowd, Bai Xiaoyi's eyes glinted with greed. She rubbed her palms together as she drooled. If she could take over the Jiang family's assets, the Bai group's wealth would double. The thought of it made her excited. So what if I take over his family's assets? Isn't it only right? Bai Ji looked like an orchid flower, but she was full of vigor and vitality. Her eyes were murderous. She fiercely said, "A country bumpkin from a small place in Su province, like a dog, dares to provoke the dignified Bai family. He really doesn't want to live. After this battle, I will go to the Jiang family in Jinling City and kill them all." Before she finished her words, a golden light flashed in front of her eyes. She screamed, but before she could dodge, a bloody hole suddenly appeared on her head, and she fell to the ground on her back. "Kong Teichu, you killed my descendant again. I will kill you." Seeing this, Hao Hongmei's eyes turned red. Her hair was disheveled and her face was ferocious. She waved her cane and rushed toward Jiang Tian like a demon. Bai Jilan was one of her most valued heirs, second only to Bai Diqing. She was even prepared to send her to the Mount Shu sword sect for training. "Humph, I said that if you don't hand over Huang Linger, I will destroy your entire family. This is only the beginning." Jiang Tian's eyes were cold. He snorted and punched the wooden cane. At the same time, Xiao Hei's flying sword flew out and beheaded Bai Xiaoyi. Chapter 483. Blood gushed out as Bai Xiaoyi's headless body fell to the ground, sending a pile of dead leaves dancing in the air. "Ah! Jiang Tu, you little bastard, you're too ruthless. You are a demon. I will never forgive you." Hao Hongmei felt like her heart was being cut by a knife. She screamed like a madman. Her voice was hoarse and tears were rolling down her face. She gritted her teeth and waved her walking stick towards Jiang Tian. It was a great tragedy for a white-haired person to lose his black hair. Although Bai Xiaoyi was not a martial artist, she was the most filial child in the family. She would talk to her every day and they were very close. Although these people deserved to die, Jiang Tian would not delay his battle with the two overlords just to kill them. This was not to vent her anger, but a strategy to throw her Dao heart into chaos and cause her to lose her ability to calculate. She could not help but rush over to engage in close combat, and in close combat, her divine tree of heavenly source would not be able to unleash its full power. This is terrifying. Back off. Bai Jingqi and the other disciples were scared out of their wits. They retreated like stray dogs. Kong Teichu is not at a disadvantage when facing the two immortal state warriors, the Bai family lord and Hongmei ancestral patriarch. He even has the strength to kill the other members of the Bai family. Seeing this, many of the overlords at the foot of the mountain gasped in shock. In the mortal world, except for the legendary overlords of Hongmeng, Bai Tianlei and his wife were the most powerful overlords. They were able to suppress Yi Zhantian and Huaqing Tian. However, Jiang Tian was able to fight the two of them at the same time. Considering that Jiang Tian had taken the opportunity to kill the members of the Bai family, Jiang Tian had the upper hand. "Hee, you old bastard! How dare you kidnap my woman? I will kill your disciples in front of you." Jiang Tian struck out with his fists and legs, charging forward with indomitable will. Every punch and kick had the power to destroy the heavens and the earth, causing rocks to shatter, trees to break, and the earth to shake. "Jiang Taichu, I want you to die a horrible death." Hongmei ancestral patriarch and Bai Tianlei were enraged. They gnashed their teeth and stamped with rage. However, there was a flaw in their attack. Bang! Jiang Tianquan moved with him. His fist was like a dragon as he dodged Hao Hongmei's staff. At the same time, his golden fist struck Bai Tianlei's chest like a cannonball. Bai Tianlei grunted and took a few steps back. His clothes were torn and his face was contorted in pain. Blood oozed from the corner of his mouth. What? The Bai family lord is injured. At the foot, everyone's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Clang clang, 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 of the chi of the heavens. Clang, Kongtu, that. Bai Tianlei's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he saw this. He leaped up and stabbed his sword at Jiang Tian. Clang. Do you think you can kill me with your insignificant cultivation? Clang, 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 clang. The black iron flying shuttle turned into a black light that penetrated the heavens and the earth, carrying Bai Tianlei as it flew 1,000 meters away. Clang, clang, clang. It hurts. Clang, clang. That's terrifying. Clang, 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 clang. Kong Teichu, how is that possible? Has he surpassed the immortal state? But a month ago, he was locked in a fierce battle with Miyamoto Geniki, who was at God Realm Culmination, for 2 hours. Is Ancestor Xian going to die? Bai Diqing's face turned as white as paper, and he trembled in fear. An unprecedented fear welled up in his heart, and for the first time, he wondered if it was a mistake for him to go against Kong Teichu. Bai Tianlei, who was nailed to the mountain wall, was terrified. He was incomparably terrified and astonished. He never thought that he would have such a day. His entire body was soaked in blood. His vitality, blood, and spirit power were being devoured and destroyed by the magic formation carved on the black iron shuttle. In a panic, he yelled out, Kong Teichu, put me down. Quick, come and save me. Old man. How Hongmei's eyes widened in anger. Shua. The green branches of the deadwood walking stick in his hand crazily extended. There were dozens of densely packed branches, and Xiao Hei's flying sword was sent flying 3 meters away. Then, she used her movement skill and flew across the void like a big bird, pouncing toward Bai Tianlei. Boom! Jiang Tian moved later but arrived first. His right hand swatted out as if he was swatting a fly. A gigantic golden palm that was like a millstone descended from the sky. Its strange power was boundless, and it caused the void to tremble and distort. Bang! The gigantic golden palm was as heavy as 10,000 mountains. It could flatten a tank and send Hao Hongmei flying. Blood gushed out of her mouth as she was almost crushed into pieces. Save the old family head. Together! We don't need to care about the rules of Jianghu when dealing with this kind of monster. Today, the Mount Shu sword sect will kill him. 9 elite disciples from Mount Shu Amei made their move. They leaped into the sky like arrows and pounced on Jiang Tian and Bai Tianlei. It was a shocking scene. The 9 masters from the Mount Shu sword sect, male and female, old and young, soared into the sky like immortals. They were going to attack Jiang Tian together. This was also a powerful lineup. The 9 masters were all very powerful. They were half a step away from the immortal state and even the immortal state. They had been practicing sword arts for decades and had reached the peak of perfection. They were the best at attacking and each one of them was more powerful than Yi Zhantian. But now, they had no time to care about their reputation. They joined forces and had the power to destroy heaven and earth. Such a situation had never happened before. Brother Jiang, watch out. Yi Zhantian's face paled as he yelled at the Bai family. It was already unfair for Bai Tianlei and his wife to join forces against Jiang Tian. But now, there were 9 more masters joining forces. Wasn't this a gang fight? Good, very good. The Mount Shu sword sect has always prided itself on being a righteous sect. I didn't expect them to turn black into white. Jiang Tian's black hair fell like a waterfall. His eyes shone brightly. He waved his right hand and the black iron shuttle flew into his hand. Today I, Kong Teichu, would like to see what kind of tricks the Mount Shu sword sect has up their sleeves. He stepped into the void as golden light flashed all over his body. The little black flying sword danced and circled around him. He held the black iron shuttle in his hand and pointed it at the sky. The tip of the shuttle was cold and glaring. Bai Tianlei was impaled on the shuttle. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead and blood gushed out from his chest. Hao Hongmei and the 9 experts were shocked. Jiang Tian's actions made them hesitate to attack, and it was not easy for them to attack. In the end, Hao Hongmei clenched her teeth and shouted, "Kill him!" Everyone rushed toward Jiang Tian. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 9 swords flashed at the same time. Layers of sword chi and sword aura swept toward Jiang Tian, covering the sky and the earth. Each of the sword aura was so sharp that it seemed like they were going to pierce Jiang Tian full of holes. Mount Shu sword cultivators are just SOSO. Jiang Tian held the black iron shuttle with one hand and lifted Bai Tianlei with the other. He waved his left hand leisurely. Boom! Suddenly, the golden true essence rushed out like a giant wave and smashed the sword aura into pieces. The 9 masters were all blown dozens of meters away like withered leaves in the wind. 3 of them vomited blood, 1 of them had his sword shattered, and the rest were pale. The 9 experts were shocked and dumbfounded. A shapeless golden chi wave was actually able to shatter the sword aura that they had refined for decades. This made their hearts tremble. With a wave of his sleeve, Jiang Tian was able to shake 9 experts with just one hand. However, he was still standing proudly in the air, not moving an inch. Those sword chi didn't even move the corner of his clothes. Such a terrifying battle prowess made everyone's heart tremble. Their expressions changed drastically. Chapter 484. What? Even the 9 of them couldn't defeat him? Is he still a human being? These 9 experts are all elites of Shushan. They are all experts who have not appeared in the world, but they are no match for Jiang Taichu. Kong Taichu's power is far more powerful than when he was at Mount Fuji. He has increased his power by at least 10 times in a month. How did he do it? Chen Qingshan, Qin Zhong, and Lin Fengnian were all shocked. The 9 of them were far more powerful than them, but they were still defeated by Jiang Tian. If they joined the fight, they would have been killed already. Let's do it together, Qin Qingshan suggested. Jiang Tian was a vengeful man. He had already formed a grudge against Jiang Tian, and Jiang Tian would get rid of him sooner or later. His murderous intent was finally over. Who dares to join the fight? What is the agreement? Only the couple of the Bai family and Master Kong are allowed to fight. Before Qin Zhong and Lin Fengnian could make up their minds, many of the Long Formation overlords shouted and the 4 spiritual generals and 8 divine beings arrived. Seeing the situation, they wanted to help Jiang Tian. Yi Zhantian didn't say anything to stop the Long Formation overlords. Instead, he looked at the Yanjin elites and said coldly, "Lord Chen, I am not an old man. Kong Taichu has already killed everyone in the Bai family. Since he gave me face and agreed to the bet with the Bai couple, Patriarch Chen, don't make things difficult for me. The 9 of them have already joined the fight. This is already unfair. Do you still want to win by outnumbering them? Shame on you." Chao Jianjia scolded. "Humph. Let's see. I have been waiting for Mr. Yi to show me what he is capable of." Qin Qingshan stepped forward as his energy surged. The Yanjin family lords were all at the peak of the transcendent state. If they worked together, they would be able to defeat Yi Zhantian. Besides, they had a lot of people with them. They were confident that they could defeat the Long Formation overlords and help the Bai family. All of a sudden, he leapt into the air like a dragon and threw a heavy punch at Yi Zhantian like a cannonball. "Family head Qin, do you think there's no one in the Sky Alliance?" Amidst the boisterous laughter, an extraordinarily mighty figure shot over like a bolt of lightning. Even though he moved later, he arrived first and met Qin Qingshan with a punch. Qin Qingshan flew back over 10 meters before landing on the ground. He felt a searing pain coming from his fist, as if it was about to explode. He couldn't help but look at the newcomer in shock. "Hua Qingnan, when did you reach the half-step divine realm?" Originally, Hua Qingtian's cultivation was only on par with his, but just now, he could clearly feel that Hua Qingtian's cultivation far surpassed his. "Ooh!" Whoosh! Many figures in black cloaks jumped down from the helicopters that were hovering 50 meters above the ground. Their momentum was as fast as galloping horses, and they leaped up and down like lightning. One by one, silhouettes with imposing manner as strong as dragons and strong as tigers, swept up rolling dead leaves and dust as they flew closer. Then, they stood uniformly behind Wuxia Tian. Although there weren't many of them, each of them was powerful and above the transcendent state. Even Zhao Yuankuan and Wei Feilong, who were already at the immortal state, seemed to have thousands of soldiers. They were the heroes of the Heavenly Alliance. If you want a group battle, then so be it. We, the Sky Alliance, are never afraid of battle. Wuxia Tian took a step forward, full of arrogance. His battle intent surged, and his might was oppressive. In fact, he was incomparably delighted. Before this, he had to pay tribute to the Bai clan and the other clans every year. When he met the patriarchs of the 7 great clans, he had to bow his head respectfully and avoid them to some extent. Even when their juniors faced him, they would look down on him and order him around. But now, the tables had turned. He had followed Master Kong and gained a lot of benefits. His cultivation had improved tremendously, and his strength had doubled. Now, he could suppress Qin Qingshan in front of the world's heroes. How satisfying! Zhao Yuankun, Wei Feilong, and the other members of the Sky Alliance felt their blood boiling and their battle intent soaring. They followed closely behind Qin Qingshan. Suddenly, a surge of pressure surged out. "Grandpa, let's wait and see. After all, this is a battle between the Bai family and Kong Teichu." Chen Zifan was frightened and pulled Qin Qingshan aside. "Old Hua, after this battle, let's have a good competition." Chen Qingshan was frightened, but he didn't show it on his face. He snorted and ignored the other members of the Sky Alliance, but he didn't dare to ask for help anymore. When Yi Zhantian looked up at the incense burner peak, he was shocked to find that the situation had changed again. "Kong Teichu, let go of my old man or die." Hao Hongmei slapped the back of her head and spat out a small Jiamu zither. The Jiamu zither expanded in the wind and was held in her hand. The Jiamu zither has been born. This is Hongmei ancestors' natal celestial device. It is said to be one of the 8 treasures of Mount Shu. Hao Taichong has used it before. It can activate tens of thousands of sword rays, and even the sword Qi Divine General. Ancestor was forced to do this by Kong Teichu. But this time, Jiang Taichu is finished. He's dead for sure. At the foot of the mountain, there was a burst of cheers. Chen Qingshan, Bai Diqing and the others were excited, as if Jiang Tian was already a dead man. Jiamu zither? Kong Teichu is in trouble now. Yi Zhantian and the others' faces changed dramatically, and their hearts sank rapidly. Is this the Khanate treasure wood? Jiang Tian's face turned serious as he scanned the area with his divine sense. Years ago, during the battle on Swirling Island, Wang Chongyan took out a Jiamu zither at the last moment and summoned countless wind blades to form a sphere. However, Jiang Tian's flying sword destroyed the Jiamu zither and turned it into a piece of scrap wood. However, Jiang Tian also noticed that the so-called Jiamu zither was an extremely rare divine wood. The divine wood was an excellent material for Dharma artifacts. It could absorb qi and quickly form wind blades or qi weapons according to the owner's will. It was ever-changing and had obvious effects of condensation and enhancement. Jiamu zither? Jiamu zither again. Damn, the Bai family has a lot of treasures. Jiang Tian scanned the area with his divine sense and found that it was indeed the divine wood of Deqian. It had a history of thousands of years and was many times more powerful than Wang Chongyan's Jiamu zither. It was also at this moment that, swoosh, 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 the 9 masters from Mount Shu slashed their swords at the same time. With each slash, their qi and blood would suddenly weaken, as if they had aged 10 years and were about to run out of oil. Some of them were even so tired that they spat out blood. After a while, a total of 9 huge qi swords about 10 meters long condensed in the void. The 9 qi swords were like 9 cruise missiles. They spread out in front of the Jiamu zither and were full of power. The energy swords actually had a bloody glow lingering within them, and a cold light flickered on the outside. They were suffused with a dazzling metallic luster, revealing their sharpness. Every energy sword seemed to have the terrifying power to cut through mountains and rivers, and pierce through the earth. Kong Teichu, I admit that you are the first cultivation genius I have seen in 100 years. In terms of spiritual power, physical strength, cultivation method, and qi cultivation, you are far superior to Yi Tianren in his heyday. At this time, Ancestor Hongmei was strangely calm. She stared at Jiang Tian coldly and said slowly, in terms of cultivation talent, speed of progress, and comprehension of martial arts, you are even more amazing. You are the first person in 1,000 years. It can be said that in 20 years, no, maybe only 10 years, you will reach the peak of martial arts in Wuxia and be on par with many sect masters of Mount Shu and other sect masters. As she said, a sharp killing intent flashed in her eyes. She sneered and said, but your mistake is that you don't know how to judge the situation and keep a low profile. How dare you provoke the Bai family? Today, we will fight with our lives on the line. With the natal chi swords condensed by the 9 masters and my natal dharma artifact, the Jiaomu Zither, I will kill you until your body and soul are destroyed and you can never be reincarnated. Old Hongmei, why are you talking so much? Look, the sword chi is about to collapse. Jiang Tian held the black iron shuttle and carried by Tianlei. He walked in the air step by step and said coldly with disdain, besides, you seem to have forgotten that your old man is still in my hands. Is the Bai family great? The head of the family is still being worn by me like a mutton skewer. Kong Teichu, you little bastard. The old woman was so angry that she vomited blood. You only know how to talk shit. Old bastard, you must have fallen into the latrine pit when you were born. Go to hell. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian had already made his move. Swish. With a sound, the black iron shuttle was thrown out and carried by Tianlei toward the Hongmei ancestor like a bolt of black lightning. What? Little bastard, you are despicable. This caught the red plum old woman off guard. She was flustered and flabbergasted. She couldn't help but curse out loud. If she wanted to dodge, the natal chi swords released by the 9 masters would be wasted. It was impossible to use them again. If she didn't dodge, she would definitely be pierced by the black iron shuttle. The couple would become mutton skewers. If she wanted to attack, Bai Tianlei was still hanging on the black iron shuttle. He would be smashed by the chi swords before Jiang Tian. Ancestor, let's do it. Old Master Bai is dying. If you don't do it, we will all die. Seeing that Hao Hongmei was hesitating and not making a move, the 9 masters beside her exclaimed and urged her anxiously. Kong Teichu, old man, don't worry. I will let the little bastard die with you. Hao Hongmei's tears rolled down. She clenched her teeth and suddenly pulled back the strings. Swish, swish, swish. There was an ear-piercing sound. As if there was a huge attraction, the 9 natal chi swords closed and shrank. In the blink of an eye, they condensed and shrunk into a 3-inch-long blood-red chi sword, floating in front of the strings. Clang. She suddenly raised her finger. The strings suddenly trembled and bounced forward. The sound was like a dragon's roar. Instantly, this incomparably condensed and sharp blood-colored sword of chi abruptly shot out like a cruise missile, drawing a streak of red light in the air that pierced through the sky. Like a rainbow piercing through the sun, it knocked away the black iron shuttle and shattered by Tianlei. Then, with an extreme speed, it shot toward Jiang Tiandong. Ha, don't talk about you. Even if a human immortal is here, I will kill him for you. 9 natal chi swords? You want to fight me with your life? Then why don't you die together? Seeing the blood-red natal chi sword coming, Jiang Tian's eyes were full of fighting spirit. His shoulder-length black hair flew like a waterfall. He slowly punched out. With this punch, the void behind Jiang Tian seemed to become a vacuum. Dark clouds rolled, wind and thunder rushed in, and lightning shot in all directions. His whole body suddenly burst out with golden light. His whole person was like a golden god. The fists that were pulsing with golden light actually burned with dazzling flames due to the intense friction with the air. Boom! In the end, the fist that seemed to be cast from gold hit the tip of the lifeblood energy sword. Chapter 485. The tip of the blood-red sword that looked like it was carved from agate suddenly paused. With a light cracking sound, a very small crack appeared. Then, it quickly cracked and shattered within a second. In the end, the sword energy expanded to the extreme and exploded uncontrollably. This time, the explosion covered an area of 1.5 kilometers. It was as if several tons of explosives had been dropped. The sound shook the heavens and the earth, and everything was blurry and chaotic. Layers upon layers of airwaves spread out in all directions. It lasted for a long time and could be clearly seen even in Beijing. How is this possible? In the blurry sky, Hao Hongmei spat out a mouthful of blood, her body trembling, her eyes glazed over as she stared in disbelief at the scene before her. This chi sword, which was condensed from the blood essence of himself and the 9 masters of Mount Shu, was further condensed and activated by Jiao Muqin. It was no exaggeration to say that it could even penetrate a mountain and kill a human immortal. However, it was shattered by Jiang Tian with one punch. Run! The 9 masters also spurted out blood. They were seriously injured by the backlash of the natal chi sword. They were so frightened that their souls almost left their bodies. They scrambled to escape in all directions. After using the sword chi, their cultivation had been reduced to the transcendent state and they were seriously injured. Their combat power was even lower and they were no match for Jiang Tian. I told you, I'll kill a mortal deity even if he's here. Jiang Tian coldly snorted as he stepped through the air. The black iron shuttle directly pierced through Hao Hongmei. At the same time, the black flying sword turned into a beam of light and refracted in the air, killing the 9 masters. In just 30 minutes, the 11 powerhouses who stood at the pinnacle of martial arts in China and awed the world were annihilated in both body and soul, vanishing into thin air. Only the ruined Sensor Peak and the cold full moon in the sky were left to bear witness to everything. When the dust settled and the smoke dispersed, everyone looked towards the battlefield in the sky and discussed animatedly. A member of the Bai family asked, "Who won?" "Senior Hongmei will definitely win." The natal chi sword formed by 9 half-step divine realm masters from Mount Shu, plus Senior Hongmei's attack, no one can withstand it. Even a mortal immortal will die here. Qin Qingshan snorted arrogantly. The leaders of the families in Yanjin nodded smugly. The blood-colored chi sword that Hao Hongmei had condensed recently was too powerful. It was as if it could even pierce through the sky. They could clearly feel the murderous and fierce aura from a few kilometers away. Alas, this Kong Teichu is really hard to deal with. Old Master Bai has fallen, and Red Plum Ancestor and the 9 seniors have consumed a lot of their natal chi and blood. I'm afraid they won't be able to recover their cultivation in half a year. Bai Jincheng's eyes were filled with hot tears, and his lips were trembling. This battle was too tragic, and the Bai family's vitality was greatly damaged. They had to pay a painful price. Father, you must pull yourself together. Killing Kong Teichu is the same as avenging Bai Jingting and the others. It will shock Huaxia and win over many families. In the future, no one will dare to provoke the Bai family. Bai Diqing tried to persuade him gently, but the joy in the corners of his eyes could not be concealed. So what if Ancestor Xian had fallen? In fact, Ancestor Xian couldn't break through the immortal state and his life was about to run out. He would die in 3 years. To put it bluntly, he would die sooner or later. However, Ancestor Xian had gotten rid of Kong Teichu before he died, and no one would be able to stop him from rising. He was afraid that he would soon replace Yi Zhantian. Ancestor Xian's death was worth it. That's right, we've finally gotten rid of Jiang Taichu. Who would dare to provoke the Bai family in the future? So what if it's the Yi family? The Bai family is invincible now, and they will have to kneel when they see the Bai family in the future. In fact, the members of the Bai family also understood this. They calmed down and even began to feel excited and joyful. On the other hand, the members of the Heavenly Alliance and the Huaxia Long formation frowned as if they were facing a formidable enemy. If the Condor group replaced the Huaxia Long formation, coupled with the power of the Adjudicator family and the support of the insect, no force in Huaxia would be able to stop them. The 7 great clans were originally known for maintaining the order of the martial Dao. They supported those of the same faction and attacked those of different factions. They plundered everywhere, and they had unbridled and cruel natures of killing. Now, with the support of the hidden sects and the Condor group scouts, they carried out their missions and slaughtered. With the increase in their strength, they would become even more arrogant and despotic. The martial arts world of Huaxia would be set off a bloodbath and even a catastrophe. Is Jiang Taichu really dead? Chao Jianjia's eyes were filled with hot tears as she muttered to herself in a daze. Previously, she had admired White Emperor City, but after truly understanding White Emperor City's actions, she realized that White Emperor City was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Yi Zhantian's face was gloomy. He frowned and even trembled. Brother Jiang was dead. Such a peerlessly talented and accomplished many miraculous feats had actually fallen. The Bai family was too powerful and too despicable. Now Hong Meng would have to come out. Only Hong Meng could deal with the Bai family. These bastards are too despicable. They have an unfair advantage. Hua Qingtian gritted his teeth and shouted angrily. Master Kong is dead. Wei Feilong's eyes were filled with tears. The Heavenly Alliance will seek revenge. Zhao Yuankuan and the other core members of the Heavenly Alliance gnashed their teeth and shouted angrily. Humph, do you think you can fight the Condor group with just the few of you? The handsome Bai Diqing slowly approached him, full of arrogance and complacency, and said arrogantly, "You're right. Surrender to the Bai family now and join the Condor group. Pledge your loyalty and I'll spare your lives." Ha, Kong Taichu is dead. Who in the world can defeat the Bai family? Hurry up and admit defeat. We have Ancestor Hongmei and 9 experts. Killing you is as easy as killing chickens. Kneel down and surrender now. The Bai family members approached the Heavenly Alliance as if they were looking at ants. That's right. With the Bai clan's strength, how could a bunch of ants like you provoke them? How dare you follow Kong Taichu and fight against the Bai family? You must be tired of living. We're already being merciful by not killing you. Kowtow and thank us now. The elites of Yanjin and the people of the Bai family who had been treading on thin ice seemed to have been revived. They were arrogant and domineering. They pointed at the members of the Heaven Alliance and mocked them as much as they could. Surrender to you? You're not worthy. We'll follow Master Kong forever and never surrender. Don't be arrogant. Today we'll fight to the death. We'll kill the Bai family even if the Heavenly Alliance has to bleed. Hua Qingtian and the rest shouted angrily in their hearts. They pulled out their swords and sabers. Their aura was rising and their fighting spirit was soaring to the sky. Accepting trash like you is a blessing that you've accumulated over several lifetimes. It's a great honor. You actually refuse? Why aren't you kowtowing and thanking me? Kong Taichu is so weak that he can't even withstand a single blow. How dare you call him the leader? Don't you think it's shameful? You're so ignorant. The Bai family has at least 100 people with such combat strength and cultivation. If you don't surrender, we'll kill all of you in a matter of minutes. We'll even wipe out your families. Under the leadership of Bai Diqing, the Yanjin heroes surrounded the Heavenly Alliance. Their swords and sabers were flashing, and a fight was about to break out. Why are you so arrogant? Where's Huang Linger? Can you hand her over now? Suddenly, an austere and cold voice sounded. Everyone was startled and raised their heads to look. They saw a young man in a white outfit and black hair descending from the sky. He stood on the mountain path and looked down at the Bai family. The rising sun sprinkled down thousands of golden rays, gilding the outline of his body with a faint golden edge, making his temperament even more ethereal, like a golden Buddha descending, like an ancient god traveling in the mortal world to relieve his boredom. What? Kong Taichu isn't dead. At that moment, the members of the Bai family and the other Yanjin families froze as if a bucket of cold water had been poured on them. Clang, clang, clang. Their swords fell to the ground one after another. They were so shocked that they couldn't even hold their weapons and step back. Kong Teichu had come down safely. Did that mean that Bai Tianlei and his wife and the 9 top cultivators had all died? How was that possible? Bai Tianlei and his wife were both at the peak of the divine realm, and the 9 experts were all above the half-step divine realm. When the 11 of them attacked at the same time, their combat power was so terrifying that it could destroy the world. However, they were all killed by Jiang Taichu. He had killed 11 immortals with 1 slash. Before the founding of the country, Yi Tianren had only killed 8 half a step away from the immortal state and the immortal state warriors in Wuxia during his heyday. He was known as the top cultivator in Wuxia for a century. However, Jiang Tian was able to effortlessly slash his opponents in just an hour. This kind of battle prowess was simply unprecedented. Once the news got out, it would definitely cause a sensation in Wuxia and the world's martial arts community. At this time, the Bai family members were terrified. They were scared out of their wits. Every one of them shrank back like quails. They could no longer be arrogant or domineering. Chen Qingshan, Qin Zhong and Lin Fengmian looked at each other and saw the shock on each other's faces. As the leader of the 7 dominant families, the Bai family was undoubtedly the most powerful, and the 2 ancestral patriarchs were the last trump cards of the Bai family. The death of the 2 ancestral patriarchs meant that the entire 7 dominant families had lost their trump cards and no one was powerful enough to fight with Jiang Tian. Kong Teichu, where are our ancestral patriarchs? Some of the Bai family's disciples couldn't hold back their anger. They didn't care about Jiang Tian's strength and status, and stepped forward to question him loudly. Cut the crap. Where are they? Hand over Wang Lin now. Jiang Tian's face turned cold. He took a step forward and shouted angrily. He directly slapped that disciple. Kaboom! A giant golden palm that was like a millstone appeared. It was incomparably heavy, and even its fingerprints could be seen clearly. Then, it pressed down like a Buddha's 5-finger mountain. Under such overwhelming power, the elite of the Bai family didn't even last a second before he was smashed into a pile of minced meat. Blood splattered everywhere as pieces of internal organs, broken bones and flesh splattered on the members of the Bai family. It was warm and pungent. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian in shock. Only now did they feel Jiang Tian's terrifying strength at such a close distance. Chapter 486. A man at the peak of the transcendent state would be able to command a group of powerful cultivators in the outside world. However, in front of Jiang Tian, he was as vulnerable as a chicken or a dog. If you don't hand her over, I will kill every single one of you. Jiang Tian's eyes were clear as he scanned the crowd. His voice was calm as if he was discussing the price of a dish. Everyone lowered their heads and took a few steps back in fear. No one dared to look into Jiang Tian's eyes. Patriarch Bai, the death of Bai Tianlei and Hao Hongmei is really a great loss to the martial arts world. The contribution of Bai Tianlei and Hao Hongmei to the martial arts world and their unremitting efforts to protect Wuxia will be remembered by all martial artists. Yi Zhantian took a step forward and heaved a sigh. He looked at Bai Jincheng, the current lord of the Bai family, and expressed his sorrow. But immediately after, he changed the topic and said, however, the bet between Master Kong and Mr. Bai has been agreed upon. The old man hopes that the Jiang family will honor the bet and release Wang Lin. What? Bai Jincheng's body trembled and his face turned pale. His heart was filled with grief, anger, shock, and disbelief. He was unwilling to accept such a defeat. The Bai family's status was too high, and their strength was too strong. Under normal circumstances, if someone or some force had a conflict or dispute with the Bai family, upon hearing the name of the Bai family, they would retreat and lay low. They would even come to the Bai family with generous gifts and apologies. More often than not, the Bai family was the one who initiated the conflict and slaughtered everyone. Therefore, the Bai family was notorious in the martial arts community of Wuxia. If there were people who didn't know what was good for them and wanted to fight to the death with the Bai family didn't even need to use the trump cards of the first and second generation. They only needed to send out a few third and fourth generation disciples, and that would be enough to make them throw away their helmets and armor and suffer a crushing defeat. In 100 years, no one in Wuxia had dared to challenge the Bai family, and the Bai family had never suffered a loss. But now, 2 patriarchs and 9 ace-level masters had died, and the Bai family had suffered a great loss at the hands of Jiang Tian. Its vitality had been greatly damaged, and its foundation had been shaken. Yizhantian, the grudge has already been set. What if Jiang Taichu attacks the Bai clan after we hand him over? Bai Diqing suppressed the fear in his heart and took a step forward and asked coldly. After witnessing Jiang Tian's monstrous strength, he was terrified as well. His soul almost left his body, but he had no choice but to stand out. Jiang Taichu once fought side by side with me, so I can still make this promise. If the Bai family hands over Wang Lin, this matter will be over. We will definitely not fight again. Yizhantian looked at Jiang Tian and said in a deep voice. Bai Jincheng, how long are you going to drag this out? If you don't, I will kill one of you every minute. Jiang Tian glared at the ashen-faced Bai Jincheng and scolded him coldly. A powerful wave of soul energy swept across the room. Bai Jincheng felt as if his soul was about to explode. His body trembled and he lowered his head. He saluted respectfully and said in a trembling voice, Fine, fine. Grandmaster Jiang's martial prowess is godlike, and his magic power is monstrous. My Bai clan admits defeat. Men, bring Miss Wang Lin out of the dungeon. Immediately, a core member of the Bai family rushed out to release Wang Lin, who was hidden and trapped by the formation. The other elites of the Bai family, including Qin Qingshan, Qin Zhong, Lin Fengmian and other family lords, were all trembling in grief. They had never imagined that the final victor would be Jiang Tian. Even Elder Bai, his wife, and the 9 great elites had fallen, so who would be able to subdue Jiang Taichu in the future? For a long time, they felt that this was a nightmare. They didn't dare to believe it. Now that Bai Jincheng had lowered his head, they finally realized that it was all real. The Bai family had lost. Master Kong, although Wang Linger's life is not in danger, she was injured and suffered a lot. We have offended Master Kong and now we know that we were wrong. I only ask that Mr. Jiang take my life for Dragon Head Ye's sake and let the rest of the Bai family live. Bai Jincheng's body trembled but his face was resolute as if he was ready to die. He had no choice but to do so. Jiang Taichu's strength was too strong. His lover had been kidnapped, and his righteous indignation would be hard to quell. He had to let Jiang Taichu vent his anger. Otherwise, there would be no end to the trouble. Father, uncle, Lord. Many members of the Bai family exclaimed in disbelief. They had never thought that Bai Jincheng would beg Jiang Tian to let him go. Bai Jincheng ignored them. He took a small bag from his assistant and took out a stack of documents. With a pale face, he said, I signed this document at Leeson Law Firm. 20% of the shares of Yuhua Villa and Bai Group will be given to Mr. Jiang. This is to express our sincere apology. We only ask that Master Kong show mercy and let the Bai family go. Bai Jincheng was not an idiot. He knew how terrifying Jiang Tian was, so he had prepared for both sides from the beginning. However, he never thought that this document would be used immediately. The Bai family group secretly held shares in many companies and had assets in the trillions. It could be considered one of the biggest tycoons in China. The Bai family only controlled 25% of the company's shares. Giving away 20% of the company's shares was worth hundreds of billions. And Jiang Tian would also be the biggest shareholder of the Bai Group, the person behind the scenes. The Bai family would fall from being one of the top families in Wuxia and become a second-rate family. Although Bai Diqing and the others were heartbroken, they didn't dare to say a word. Jiang Tian's power was not something they could compare with. Qin Qingshan and the others were even more frightened. It was one thing to give away the shares, but what was even more painful was that Yuhua Mountain Villa had the Dragon Marrow Spirit Vein. This was a priceless paradise that couldn't be bought with money. Not enough. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian said lightly, What? Is Mr. Jiang still unwilling to let the Bai family go even though the old man has given in? Bai Jincheng couldn't believe it. His body trembled and his face turned pale. His gray hair fluttered in the morning breeze as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. The others were also shocked. Jiang Tian paced slowly as if he was taking a stroll in the park. He said lightly, I, Kong Teichu, may have killed many people in my life, but I have never involved the innocent. The Bai family and the Chen family once planned to send me to the Cherry Blossom Festival in Japan to kill me. Someone has to take the blame. I have only killed you and Chen Qingshan. I have done my best. Then he pointed his finger at the air. Bang! Chen Qingshan's head exploded before he could beg for mercy. Red and white matter sprayed all over the ground. His headless body flew out and a trail of blood was left behind. Master Kong doesn't need to do it. The old man killed himself, but Master Kong, please spare the others. Bai Jinsheng pulled out a shiny dagger from his waist and slid it across his neck. Blood spurted out like a fountain. No revenge. You can't take revenge. Not even the people of Shu Mountain. From now on, the Bai family will pass down the teachings to the next generation. No one is allowed to cultivate or fight with others. He staggered and fell to the ground, shouting with the last of his strength. Then, his body twitched violently and stopped moving in the blink of an eye. He died suddenly, leaving his body intact. Then, Jiang Tian looked at Bai Diqing, who was trembling, pale, and in extreme pain and fear. Not to mention that you kidnapped my woman, you used a living person as a cauldron and used goo worms to forcefully increase your cultivation. You also deserve to die. You have killed at least 80 martial artists, if not 100. Today, I will not kill you, but I will destroy all your cultivation and deprive you of 50 years of your life as punishment. Jiang Tian grabbed Bai Diqing's chest and used the demonic sky-devouring art. Suddenly, Bai Diqing's qi and blood surged towards Jiang Tian like a flood. Everyone saw with disbelief that his jet-black hair had turned white in the blink of an eye, and his fair and plump cheeks were collapsing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Wrinkles grew on his face and age spots covered his face. His tall, straight, and extraordinarily handsome figure was swiftly hunched down. In the end, he actually became a weak and feeble old geezer that was coughing and gasping for breath without end. Then, Jiang Tian glanced at the frightened members of the Bai family and said coldly, The Bai family has schemed against me many times and is very annoying. From now on, the members of the Bai family are not allowed to do business in Wuxia. All of you must emigrate overseas. Do you agree? Even though the members of the Bai family were shocked and angry, they had to submit under Jiang Tian's overwhelming pressure. Jiang Tian's 3 moves could be said to be reasonable, but they were also tit for tat, striking everyone's weak points, intimidating the crowd. Bai Jinsheng and Chen Qingshan had schemed against Jiang Tian many times and wanted to use the East Asian people to get rid of Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian should kill the 2 of them, and it also intimidated the other 6 families. Bai Diqing considered himself to be a cultivation genius. He was ambitious and did not hesitate to kidnap and kill people, using the goo cauldron cultivation technique to forcefully raise his cultivation. Thus, Jiang Tian crippled his cultivation and took away his lifespan, turning him into a powerless old man. The Bai family had great influence in the mortal world. They controlled the political and commercial power, and they had a high status. These descendants of the Bai family enjoyed great wealth and glory. Therefore, Jiang Tian took everything away and chased them out of Wuxia. This was equivalent to flattening the land where they could rise from the ashes. This was worse than killing them. We surrender. Realizing this, the members of the Bai family felt a chill in their hearts. Jiang Tian kept his promise and didn't wipe out the Bai family, giving face to Yi Zhantian, so it wouldn't cause too much of a stir in the mortal world. However, he took away the hope of the Bai family, which was their most precious thing, and it made them feel worse than death. Killing people was nothing more than a nod of the head. This person was truly a living demon. We have no objection to Master Kang's decision. Yi Zhantian was the first to express his opinion and stood on Jiang Tian's side. That's reasonable and reasonable. We can testify. Red Envoy, Secretary Shen and the others nodded in agreement. Then, the members of the Bai family announced that they would leave Yuhua Villa in 3 days and all of them would leave Huaxia in 5 days. On the way back, many big shots in Yanjin looked solemn as if they had just had a nightmare and couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. Some of them were like Mrs. Lin, murmuring over and over again, "How is this possible? How is this possible?" The 11 most powerful overlords were all half-immortal state warriors and immortal state warriors. Sigh, the sky of Yanjing is finally going to change. Qin Zhong sighed faintly, his face lonely and sad. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.